What if the Sorting Hat refused to sort Harry and declared him the fifth founder? Chapter 1, The Hat's Declaration. Potter, Harry. The great hall fell into a hush as Harry stepped forward, heart hammering against his ribs. After 11 years of cupboards and hand-me-downs and not belonging anywhere, he was finally about to find his place. The sea of black-robed students watched him, their faces a blur as Professor McGonagall placed the ancient, patched sorting hat onto his head. It slipped down over his eyes, plunging him into darkness. Said a small voice in his ear. Difficult. Very difficult. Harry gripped the edges of the stool, knuckles whitening. Plenty of courage, I see. Not a bad mind either. There's talent, oh my goodness, yes, and a nice thirst to prove yourself. But where to put you? Harry thought desperately of Ron on the train, of the red-headed family's warmth. Not Slytherin, not Slytherin. Not Slytherin, eh? Are you sure? You could be great, you know, it's all here in your head, and Slytherin would help you on the way to greatness, no doubt about that. Please, not Slytherin, anything but. The hat suddenly went rigid on his head. The small voice vanished. For several long seconds, nothing happened. Then the hat began to tremble. What's happening? Harry whispered. The hat didn't answer him. Instead, it suddenly straightened atop his head, its tip pointing skyward. When it spoke, it wasn't in the quiet voice only Harry could hear, it boomed across the great hall, echoing off the enchanted ceiling. Impossible. A collective gasp rippled through the hall. At the staff table, Dumbledore rose to his feet, eyes sharp behind half-moon spectacles. I cannot sort this boy. Harry's stomach plunged. They'd made a mistake. He wasn't meant to be here. He wasn't magical enough. They were going to send him back to Privet Drive, back to the Dursleys, back to, Harry Potter is not for sorting, the hat proclaimed. He is the fifth founder of Hogwarts. The great hall exploded into chaos. Students leapt to their feet, shouting over one another. Professor McGonagall staggered backward, clutching her chest. At the Gryffindor table, Ron's mouth hung open. The Slytherins looked murderous. And through it all, Harry sat frozen, the hat still trembling atop his head. What? He finally managed to whisper. I don't understand. Neither do I, the hat replied, once again in the small voice only Harry could hear. This has never happened before. The magic, it recognizes you. What magic? I'm just Harry. No, said the hat. You're much more. The castle knows. I know. You are the fifth founder, and your coming has been written in the stones of Hogwarts since the beginning. Before Harry could ask anything else, the hat was whisked from his head. Professor McGonagall stood over him, her face pale as parchment. Mr. Potter, she said shakily. Please, please come with me. Harry stood on wobbling legs. The entire school stared at him. He caught a glimpse of Hermione Granger looking thunderstruck, of a blonde Slytherin boy whose sneer had transformed into stunned disbelief, of Ron who gave him a bewildered thumbs up. Dumbledore glided down from the staff table, his face unreadable. Continue with the sorting, he told McGonagall quietly. Professor Snape, please join us. The rest of you, feast and welcome our new students. With that, Dumbledore placed a gentle hand on Harry's shoulder and steered him out of the great hall. Harry felt the weight of 1,000 eyes on his back as the doors swung shut behind them. A tall, hook-nosed professor with greasy black hair swept after them, his black robes billowing like bat wings. His expression was a mixture of fury and disbelief. Headmaster, this is absurd, he spat. The boy has barely set foot in the castle. Nevertheless, Severus, Dumbledore replied calmly, we must investigate what has occurred. The Sorting Hat has never behaved in such a manner before. They climbed the marble staircase, Harry nearly tripping as the stairs began to move beneath them. He'd been nervous about which house he'd be sorted into, but this was beyond anything he could have imagined. Sir, he ventured, what did the hat mean? I can't be a founder. The founders lived 1,000 years ago. Dumbledore's blue eyes twinkled behind his spectacles. Indeed they did, Harry. Which makes tonight's declaration all the more remarkable. They arrived at a large stone gargoyle, and Dumbledore murmured, "Acid pops." The gargoyle sprang to life and hopped aside, revealing a spiral staircase that moved like an escalator. Harry followed Dumbledore into a circular office filled with whirring silver instruments and portraits of sleeping wizards and witches. The black-haired professor, Snape, stalked in behind them, slamming the door. "This is outrageous," he hissed. "Potter is attempting to make himself special from the moment he arrives." "I didn't do anything," Harry protested. "Quiet," Snape snapped. "The famous Harry Potter, too good for the houses that have served Hogwarts for a millennium." "Severus, please," Dumbledore said firmly. He gestured for Harry to sit in a chair before his desk, then placed the sorting hat, which he had somehow acquired, on the desk between them. "Hat," said Dumbledore, "I must ask you to explain yourself." The rip near the brim opened again. "I have explained myself, Headmaster. Harry Potter is the 5th founder of Hogwarts." "Impossible," Snape sneered. "The founders were Godric Gryffindor, Helga Hufflepuff, Rowena Ravenclaw, and Salazar Slytherin. There is no 5th. "There wasn't," the hat corrected. "But there is now." "What does that even mean?" Harry burst out. The hat turned slightly toward him. "When the 4 founders created me, they imbued me with their knowledge and values, to sort students in their stead after they were gone. But they also left contingencies." "Contingencies?" Dumbledore leaned forward, suddenly intent. "They knew dark times might come to Hogwarts. They knew the school might one day need renewal. They embedded in me the ability to recognize one who could stand among them as an equal, one who could breathe new life into their legacy when it was most needed." Snape made a derisive noise. "And you believe that person is Potter? An 11-year-old boy who knows nothing of our world?" "Age is irrelevant," the hat replied. "The magic recognizes him. I recognize him. And soon, the castle will too." As if on cue, a low rumble shook the office. The portraits on the walls rattled, several of their occupants woke with startled exclamations. A shower of dust drifted down from the ceiling. "What was that?" Harry gasped. Dumbledore stood, moving to a window. "It seems Hogwarts is already responding to your presence, Harry. But what does being a founder mean?" Harry pressed. "What am I supposed to do?" The hat seemed to sigh. "That, young Potter, is for you to discover. Each founder shaped Hogwarts according to their vision. Godric valued bravery, Helga loyalty, Rowena wisdom, and Salazar ambition. What will you bring to these hallowed halls?" Harry stared at it, utterly lost for words. Yesterday he'd been nobody, just the unwanted nephew living under the stairs. Now he was supposedly the 5th founder of the greatest wizarding school in Britain. "This is ridiculous," Snape insisted. "The boy must be sorted properly. Put him in Gryffindor with the other dunderheads and be done with it." "I cannot," said the hat simply. "The magic prevents it." Dumbledore stroked his long silver beard thoughtfully. "Fascinating. In all my years." The castle shuddered again, more violently this time. One of Dumbledore's silver instruments toppled from its table and rolled across the floor. "Headmaster," a new voice called. Professor McGonagall burst into the office, looking harried. "Something strange is happening in the castle. The staircases are rearranging themselves more than usual, doors are appearing and disappearing, and," she broke off, staring at Harry. "And the house elves report a new set of rooms has appeared off the Great Hall. Rooms that have never existed before." Dumbledore's eyebrows rose. "It seems Hogwarts is making accommodations for its new founder." He turned to Harry. "Shall we investigate?" Harry nodded numbly, still trying to process everything. He followed Dumbledore and McGonagall back down the spiral staircase, aware of Snape's burning glare on his back. As they descended through the castle, Harry noticed students peering at him from behind statues and tapestries. News had clearly spread like wildfire. A ghost floated through a wall, spotted Harry, and promptly dropped into a deep bow before disappearing again. "Sir," Harry said quietly to Dumbledore, everyone staring. "Yes," Dumbledore agreed. "I imagine they will for quite some time. You've upended 1,000 years of tradition in a single evening, Harry. Rather impressive, even by your standards." They reached the entrance hall just as students began spilling out of the great hall, full from the feast. The crowd parted before Dumbledore like water around a stone, conversations dying as they spotted Harry. "Everyone, please proceed to your dormitories," McGonagall announced. "Prefects, lead the way." "But Professor, what about Harry?" called Ron, pushing through the crowd. "Where's he going to sleep if he's not in a house?" McGonagall's lips thinned. "That is precisely what we are determining, Mr. Weasley." "Wicked," Ron breathed, eyeing Harry with newfound awe. "You never do anything halfway, do you?" Harry felt his face flush. "I didn't do anything," he muttered. "Yeah, right," Ron grinned. "Fifth founder. That's mental, mate. In a good way. Mr. Weasley, to your dormitory," McGonagall said firmly. Ron squeezed Harry's shoulder. "See you tomorrow." "Yeah," Harry nodded, grateful for his new friend's support. "See you." As the students dispersed, Dumbledore led Harry and the professors toward a section of wall beside the great hall that Harry hadn't noticed before. Where there had presumably been solid stone now stood an ornate wooden door, emblazoned with a crest Harry didn't recognize, a stylized lightning bolt crossed with a phoenix feather. "Well," said Dumbledore softly. "It seems Hogwarts has indeed prepared for your arrival, Harry. But how could it know?" McGonagall whispered. "Albus, what does this mean?" "It means," said Dumbledore, "that we are witnessing magic beyond our understanding, magic laid down by the founders themselves." He turned to Harry. "Would you care to open the door?" Heart pounding, Harry stepped forward and placed his hand on the lightning bolt symbol. The door recognized his touch immediately, swinging inward to reveal a circular room with 5 doors leading off it. The floor bore a massive inlaid crest, the familiar emblems of the 4 houses, with the lightning and feather symbol in the center. "The Founder's Nexus," breathed McGonagall. "I thought it was just a legend." Harry stepped inside, drawn by some instinct he couldn't explain. The room seemed to welcome him, warm light flaring in wall sconces as he entered. 4 of the 5 doors bore the crests of the houses: lion, badger, eagle, and serpent. The 5th, directly opposite the entrance, displayed Harry's new emblem. "What's through there?" he asked, pointing to the 5th door. "I believe those would be your personal quarters," said Dumbledore. "Though I admit, I have never seen this room before today." Harry approached the door with his symbol and touched it gently. Like the outer door, it swung open at his touch. Beyond lay a comfortable sitting room with a crackling fire, shelves of books, and comfortable armchairs. Tapestries adorned the walls, showing scenes Harry didn't recognize: a stag running through a forest, a red-haired woman with his green eyes casting spells, a black dog and wolf playing beneath a full moon. A desk stood by a window that somehow showed the Hogwarts grounds, despite them being well inside the castle. "It's incredible," Harry whispered. "Indeed," agreed Dumbledore. "The magic of Hogwarts has created a space specifically for you, much as it did for the original founders." 2 more doors led off the sitting room. Harry opened one to find a bedroom with a 4-poster bed draped in fabric that shimmered between all 4 house colors. His trunk sat at the foot of the bed, already unpacked into a wardrobe. The second door revealed a private study filled with more books and magical instruments Harry didn't recognize. "Albus," McGonagall said urgently. "We need to discuss what this means for Potter's education. If he's not in a house, Indeed, Minerva. A most unique situation. Dumbledore turned to Harry. I suggest you get some rest, Harry. Tomorrow will undoubtedly bring many questions, but for now, you should acquaint yourself with your new quarters. But sir, Harry said, I still don't understand what I'm supposed to do. Dumbledore smiled gently. The role of a founder is to guide, nurture, and protect Hogwarts and its students. Beyond that, I believe you will discover your purpose as you grow into your role. He paused. The path has chosen you, Harry, not the other way around. Sometimes that is how the greatest journeys begin. With that cryptic statement, Dumbledore ushered the still protesting professors out, leaving Harry alone in his new chambers. For several minutes, Harry simply stood in the center of the sitting room, trying to process everything. The Dursleys had spent 11 years telling him he was nothing, nobody. Now a magical hat and a 1,000-year-old castle seemed to think he was extraordinary. I don't even know what a founder does, he told the empty room. To his shock, the room answered, not in words, but in sensation. He felt a warm pulse of magic flow through him, reassuring and supportive. The castle, somehow, was communicating with him. Too overwhelmed to think anymore, Harry collapsed into one of the armchairs by the fire. He was still sitting there, staring into the flames, when a soft knock came at his door. Cautiously, he opened it to find a tiny creature with bat-like ears and bulging green eyes wearing a tea towel stamped with the Hogwarts crest. Master Founder, sir, the creature squeaked, bowing so low its long nose touched the floor. Tibby is bringing hot chocolate and biscuits for the new founder. Thanks, Harry said, accepting the tray. But I'm just Harry. Not Master Founder or anything. Tibby's eyes grew even wider. So humble. Just like the stories say. Before Harry could ask what stories, the creature disappeared with a crack. Sighing, Harry took the hot chocolate back to his chair. As he sipped the rich, sweet drink, he noticed something he'd overlooked before, a letter sitting on the mantelpiece. His name was written on the envelope in an elegant, flowing script he didn't recognize. Setting down his mug, Harry opened the letter. To the fifth founder, if you are reading this, then our contingency has been activated. Hogwarts has recognized in you the qualities of all four houses, and more importantly, the heart needed to unite them. The castle has accepted you as one of us. We four created this school with a vision, to teach young witches and wizards to harness their gifts. But we were not perfect. Our differences eventually divided us, and that division has persisted through the centuries. You have been chosen to heal these divisions. To renew what has become stagnant. To protect what is precious. The castle will guide you. It will respond to your needs and your magic in ways it does for no other. Listen to it. Learn from it. It has much to teach. You may feel unworthy of this responsibility. You are not. The magic that recognized you does not make mistakes. We welcome you, fifth founder, to our legacy. Godric Gryffindor Helga Hufflepuff Rowena Ravenclaw Salazar Slytherin. Harry read the letter 3 times, his hands shaking. 1,000 years ago, the founders had somehow known he would come. They had prepared for him. But I'm just Harry, he whispered again. The fire flared in response, and Harry felt another pulse of magic flow through him, stronger this time, insistent. It seemed to say, you are enough. Sleep claimed Harry eventually, right there in the armchair. He dreamed of 4 figures in medieval robes, welcoming him to a round table with a seat that had been empty for centuries. Morning brought chaos. Harry woke to find a small crowd gathered outside his door, students from all houses trying to catch a glimpse of the fifth founder. He'd barely managed to dress before Dumbledore arrived to escort him to breakfast. I apologize for the commotion, Harry, the headmaster said as they navigated the corridors. News of your unique status has spread throughout the school. Sir, Harry asked, where will I sit? I'm not in any house. An excellent question. I believe the Great Hall has already provided an answer. Indeed, when they entered the hall, Harry saw that a fifth table had appeared, smaller than the house tables, positioned perpendicular to the staff table like a junction point between all four houses. Above it hung a banner with his lightning and feather emblem. The hall fell silent as Harry entered. Then the whispering started, hundreds of voices hissing like snakes. Is it true? The fifth founder? But he's just a kid. My father says it's rubbish. Harry slid into his seat at the new table, acutely aware of everyone watching him. The isolation was palpable until, mind if I join you, mate? Ron appeared beside the table, breakfast plate in hand. Please, Harry said gratefully. Ron sat down, seemingly oblivious to the stares. These eggs are brilliant. So, Founder, got any special powers yet? Harry felt a smile tug at his lips for the first time since the sorting. Just the power to attract unwanted attention. You've always had that, Ron grinned, shoveling food into his mouth. Blimey, you should have seen the dormitory last night. Everyone talking about you. My brothers are dead jealous. Excuse me. A bushy-haired girl hovered beside their table, Hermione Granger from the train. I've been reading about the founders all night, and there's absolutely no mention of a fifth founder in Hogwarts, a history. I think there's been some mistake. Before Harry could respond, another voice cut in, cool and drawling. For once, I agree with Granger. The blonde Slytherin boy Harry had glimpsed in Diagon Alley stood on the other side of the table, flanked by two larger boys. His pointed face was set in a sneer. The idea that Potter could be a founder is laughable. My father sits on the school's board of governors, and he'll have this nonsense sorted out by nightfall. Didn't ask your opinion, Malfoy, Ron said through a mouthful of toast. Malfoy's pale eyes narrowed. No one was talking to you, Weasley. I'm addressing the so-called founder. He turned to Harry. You'll soon find that some wizarding families are better than others, Potter. You don't want to go making friends with the wrong sort. He extended his hand. I can help you there. Harry looked at the offered hand, then at Ron's reddening face, then at Hermione's disapproving expression. The weight of the hall's attention pressed down on him. He made his decision. Thanks, he said coolly, not taking Malfoy's hand, but I think I can figure out the wrong sort for myself. Malfoy's hand dropped, his cheeks flushing pink. You'll regret this, Potter. Founder or not, you've just made an enemy. He stalked away, his cronies lumbering after him. Nicely handled, said a new voice. An older boy with red hair and horn-rimmed glasses had appeared, Ron's brother Percy, Harry recalled. But as a prefect, I should warn you that antagonizing Draco Malfoy might not be wise. His family is very influential. So what am I supposed to do? Harry asked. Let him dictate who I can be friends with. Percy adjusted his glasses. No, of course not. I'm merely suggesting that I should play politics. Harry shook his head. I didn't ask for any of this. Nevertheless, Percy said stiffly, you have responsibilities now. The whole school is watching you. As if to emphasize his point, a flash went off nearby. A small boy with mousy hair had taken Harry's picture with an oversized camera. Colin Creevey, sir, the boy squeaked. First year, just sorted into Gryffindor. Could I have your autograph? I don't. Harry was saved by the arrival of Professor McGonagall with his class schedule. Mr. Potter, she said, looking harried, the staff has been in discussions all night about your unusual circumstances. As you are not in a house, we've had to create a special schedule for you. She handed him a parchment. You'll notice you have classes with all four houses. Harry examined the schedule. Sure enough, he would be attending Transfiguration with the Ravenclaws, Charms with the Hufflepuffs, Potions with the Slytherins, and so on. Also, McGonagall continued, the headmaster wishes to meet with you after your classes today. And She hesitated. I'm afraid there will be representatives from the Ministry of Magic arriving this afternoon to investigate the situation. The Ministry? Harry repeated, alarmed. Am I in trouble? No, Potter, McGonagall's expression softened slightly. But your status raises many questions. The minister himself is quite interested. She moved away, leaving Harry feeling even more exposed than before. The Minister of Magic? Ron whistled. You really are famous now. I don't want to be, Harry muttered. Excuse me, Hermione said, still hovering nearby, but if you're really the fifth founder, shouldn't you be learning about what that means? I could help research. Back off, Granger, Ron interrupted. He's had enough questions for one morning. Hermione's face fell, and Harry felt a pang of guilt. Thanks for offering, he told her. Maybe later. I'm still trying to figure all this out. She brightened slightly. Of course. I'll check the library section on Founder's Magic. There must be something about this phenomenon. As she hurried off, Ron rolled his eyes. Mental, that one. Harry couldn't focus on his first day of classes. In Transfiguration, the Ravenclaws peppered him with questions until Professor McGonagall threatened detention. In Herbology, the Hufflepuffs were more polite but no less curious, forming a hushed audience around his work table. By the time Harry reached Potions with the Slytherins, he was exhausted from the attention. He slipped into the dungeon classroom just before the bell, hoping to find an inconspicuous seat. No such luck. Professor Snape swept in, black robes billowing, and immediately fixed Harry with a glittering stare. Ah, yes, he said softly. Harry Potter. Our new celebrity. Draco Malfoy and his friends sniggered behind their hands. Tell me, Potter, Snape continued, what would I get if I added powdered root of asphodel to an infusion of wormwood? Harry blinked, caught off guard. I don't know, sir. Fame clearly isn't everything, Snape's lip curled. Let's try again. Where would you look if I told you to find me a bezoar? I don't know, sir. Thought you wouldn't open a book before coming, Potter. What is the difference between monkshood and wolfsbane? I don't know, Harry said quietly. But I think Hermione does. Why don't you try her? A few people laughed. Snape did not. Sit down, he snapped at Hermione, who had eagerly raised her hand. For your information, Potter, asphodel and wormwood make a sleeping potion so powerful it is known as the draught of living death. A bezoar is a stone taken from the stomach of a goat and it will save you from most poisons. As for monkshood and wolfsbane, they are the same plant, also known as aconite. His eyes narrowed. Well? Why aren't you all copying that down? There was a sudden rummaging for quills and parchment. And Potter, Snape added, a point will be taken for your cheek. He paused. Ah, but you don't have a house to lose points from, do you? How convenient. The lesson didn't improve from there. Snape set them to mixing a simple potion to cure boils, then swept around the room criticizing everyone except Malfoy, whom he seemed to like. He was just telling everyone to look at the perfect way Malfoy had stewed his horned slugs when a loud hissing filled the dungeon. Neville Longbottom had somehow melted his cauldron, and his potion was seeping across the floor, burning holes in people's shoes. Idiot boy. Snape snarled, clearing the spilled potion with a wave of his wand. I suppose you added the porcupine quills before taking the cauldron off the fire? Neville whimpered as angry red boils sprang up all over his arms and legs. Take him to the hospital wing, Snape spat at Neville's partner. Then he rounded on Harry. You, Potter, why didn't you tell him not to add the quills? Thought he'd make you look good if he got it wrong, did you? That's another point you've lost for, oh wait. His smile was cruel. Perhaps we need a new system for disciplining the founder. Harry gripped the edge of his table, anger boiling inside him. He hadn't even been working near Neville. The dungeon floor suddenly trembled beneath them. Vials rattled on shelves. A crack appeared in the ceiling, and a shower of dust rained down, directly onto Snape's head. The classroom went deadly silent. Snape's black eyes burned into Harry's. "Class dismissed," he said softly. "Potter, remain behind." As the other students filed out, some shooting Harry sympathetic glances, others looking smug, Harry braced himself. Once they were alone, Snape advanced on him like a predator. "Playing games with the castle's magic, Potter." "I didn't do anything, sir." "Don't lie to me," Snape hissed. "I saw the way the castle responded to your petulant anger. Control yourself, or there will be consequences." Harry met his gaze defiantly. "You were being unfair. I wasn't anywhere near Neville. Life is unfair, Potter. Your supposed founder status doesn't exempt you from that reality." Snape's voice dropped to a whisper. "Your father strutted around this castle too, thinking the rules didn't apply to him either." "My father?" Harry's anger was replaced by confusion. "You knew my father?" Something flickered in Snape's expression. "Unfortunately. Now get out of my sight." Harry left the dungeon, his mind whirling. Snape had known his father, and clearly hated him. Was that why he seemed to despise Harry on sight? He was so distracted that he nearly walked straight into Dumbledore, who was waiting in the corridor outside. "Ah, Harry," the headmaster said pleasantly. "I was just coming to find you. The Ministry representatives have arrived earlier than expected. Would you mind accompanying me to my office?" Harry's stomach dropped. "Do I have a choice?" "There are always choices, Harry," Dumbledore said, his eyes twinkling. "But in this instance, I believe it would be best to address their questions directly. Better to shape the narrative ourselves than to allow others to do so for us." Harry nodded reluctantly, falling into step beside the headmaster. As they walked, Dumbledore asked about his first day of classes. "Professor Snape seems to hate me," Harry said finally. "He said he knew my father." "Ah," Dumbledore sighed. "Professor Snape and your father had a complex relationship during their school days. I had hoped Severus would not hold the sins of the father against the son, but alas, old wounds can run deep. What did my dad do to him?" "That," said Dumbledore gently, "is a story for another time. For now, we must focus on the matter at hand." They reached the stone gargoyle, and Dumbledore gave the password, "Fizzing Whizbee." The spiral staircase carried them up to his office, where three people waited: a portly man in a pinstriped cloak and lime-green bowler hat, a squat woman with a toad-like face wearing a pink cardigan, and a tall black man with a gold earring and an air of quiet authority. "Ah, Cornelius," Dumbledore greeted the portly man. "Thank you for coming on such short notice." "Unusual circumstances, Dumbledore, most unusual," the man replied, eyeing Harry with naked curiosity. "This is the boy, then." "Harry Potter, may I present Cornelius Fudge, Minister for Magic. And his colleagues, Dolores Umbridge, Senior Undersecretary, and Kingsley Shacklebolt, Auror." The minister pumped Harry's hand enthusiastically. "Extraordinary business, this founder affair. The Ministry is most concerned indeed." Hem, the toad-like woman coughed delicately. "Concerned is putting it mildly, Headmaster. This unprecedented situation raises serious questions about the governance of Hogwarts." "Does it, Dolores?" Dumbledore asked mildly. "I was under the impression that the Founder's magic superseded Ministry authority when it came to Hogwarts' internal affairs." Umbridge's smile tightened. "Surely you don't expect us to believe that an 11-year-old boy has somehow become a founder of Hogwarts? It's preposterous." "I don't expect you to believe anything without evidence, Dolores." Dumbledore gestured to the sorting hat, which sat on his desk. "Perhaps you'd like to question our primary witness?" The minister approached the hat cautiously. Hello there. Cornelius Fudge, Minister for Magic. I was wondering if you might explain your, declaration regarding young Potter here." The hat's brim opened. I have already explained myself, Minister. The boy is the fifth founder of Hogwarts. The magic recognizes him as such. Yes, but what magic? Umbridge pressed. What evidence? She was interrupted by another rumble that shook the entire office. This time, it was strong enough to knock several books from their shelves. The tall Auror, Kingsley, spoke for the first time, his deep voice calm. I believe that was your evidence, Dolores. The castle has been doing that since Harry's arrival, Dumbledore explained. It appears to be reconfiguring itself to accommodate its new founder. Preposterous, Umbridge repeated, though she looked slightly less certain. Fudge wrung his hands. What does this mean, Dumbledore? For the boy? For the school? For the Ministry's relationship with Hogwarts? I believe we are in uncharted waters, Cornelius. Dumbledore's gaze was serene. The magic of the Founders is ancient and powerful, beyond even my full understanding. We must observe, adapt, and most importantly, support young Harry as he navigates this extraordinary responsibility. The boy can't possibly have the authority of a founder. Umbridge protested. He's a child. Yet the castle recognizes him, Dumbledore countered. Rooms have appeared for him. The very stones of Hogwarts respond to his presence. Would you dispute magic that predates the Ministry itself? Umbridge looked as though she would very much like to do just that, but Fudge placed a restraining hand on her arm. Now, Dolores. Let's not be hasty. He turned to Harry with an ingratiating smile. My boy, this must be overwhelming for you. Perhaps you could tell us, in your own words, what happened during the sorting. Harry hesitantly recounted the experience, the hat's indecision, its sudden rigidity, and its booming declaration. As he spoke, he noticed the Auror, Kingsley, watching him with keen interest. And since then? Fudge prompted. Any unusual abilities? Changes? Harry hesitated, unsure how much to reveal. The castle seems to respond to me. Sometimes. And my quarters appeared out of nowhere. Quarters. Umbridge's eyes narrowed. What quarters? Dumbledore explained about the Founder's nexus and Harry's rooms off the Great Hall. This is highly irregular, Umbridge said. At minimum, the Board of Governors should be consulted. Lucius Malfoy has already expressed grave concerns. Lucius Malfoy's concerns are duly noted, Dumbledore interrupted smoothly. But I remind you, Dolores, that the Board of Governors was established to oversee Hogwarts in the Founder's absence. If a Founder is present, you cannot seriously suggest that this boy has authority over the board. Umbridge's voice rose shrilly. I'm not suggesting anything, Dumbledore replied. Merely pointing out the constitutional complexities of our situation. The debate continued in circles, with Umbridge growing increasingly strident, Fudge increasingly flustered, and Dumbledore remaining maddeningly calm. Throughout it all, Kingsley said little, but his observant gaze missed nothing. Finally, Fudge put an end to the discussion. We'll need to consult with the Department of Mysteries. Research the Founder's original charter. In the meantime, Potter should continue as a normal student. But he isn't a normal student, Cornelius, Dumbledore pointed out. He isn't in a house. Then create a provisional arrangement. Fudge blustered. The boy must attend classes, follow rules. Oh, I quite agree, said Dumbledore. Harry has already begun classes with all four houses, and he is certainly subject to school rules. But we cannot ignore the magical reality of his position. In the end, they reached an uneasy compromise. Harry would continue his unique schedule, residing in the Founder's quarters that the castle had provided. The Ministry would research precedents and consult experts, while Dumbledore would monitor the situation and report any significant developments. No official announcements would be made until more was understood about Harry's status. As the Ministry officials prepared to leave, Kingsley Shacklebolt approached Harry quietly. Quite a responsibility you've been given, he said in his deep, reassuring voice. "If you ever need assistance navigating the political aspects of your position, Mr. Potter, the Auror office is at your service." "Thank you, sir," Harry said, surprised by the offer. Something about the tall Auror inspired trust. Kingsley gave him a slight nod, then rejoined his colleagues. As they left, Harry overheard Umbridge muttering to Fudge, "This isn't over, Minister. The boy cannot be allowed to usurp established authority." When they were gone, Harry slumped into a chair, exhausted. "Sir, what does all this mean? The Minister, that Umbridge woman, they acted like I'm trying to take over the school or something." Dumbledore sat behind his desk, steepling his fingers. "Power makes people nervous, Harry. Especially power they don't understand or control. But I don't have any power. Don't you?" Dumbledore's blue eyes pierced him. "The castle responds to you. It created room specifically for you. The Sorting Hat, imbued with the original Founder's magic, declared you their equal." He leaned forward. "Whether you feel it yet or not, you possess significant influence. The question is, how will you use it?" Harry stared at him, overwhelmed. "I don't know anything about being a Founder. I barely know anything about being a wizard." "You will learn," Dumbledore assured him. "And you will not be alone. The staff will guide you, as will I." He paused. "However, I must warn you, not everyone will welcome this development. As you've already seen with Professor Snape and young Mr. Malfoy, change often breeds resistance. So what should I do? For now. Be a student. Learn. Make friends. Discover what being the fifth Founder means to you." Dumbledore smiled gently. "The rest will come in time." Harry nodded slowly, trying to absorb the enormity of it all. "Sir, one more thing, the letter I found in my quarters last night. From the Founders. How is that possible?" Dumbledore's eyebrows rose in genuine surprise. "A letter? From the Founders themselves?" Harry described the parchment, the elegant script, the message about healing divisions. "Extraordinary," Dumbledore murmured. "It seems the Founders prepared more thoroughly for your arrival than any of us realized. May I see this letter? It's in my room. I can bring it to you tomorrow." "Please do." Dumbledore stroked his beard thoughtfully. "If the Founders left specific guidance for you, it could prove invaluable in understanding your role." Harry left Dumbledore's office with more questions than answers, his mind spinning with the implications of everything he'd learned. As he descended the spiral staircase, he nearly collided with a tall, stern-looking boy wearing Slytherin robes and a prefect badge. "Watch where you're going, Potter," the boy sneered. "Sorry," Harry muttered, trying to step around him. The prefect blocked his path. "Not so fast. I've been wanting a word with you." Harry's hand instinctively moved toward his wand, though he hardly knew how to use it yet. "What do you want?" "I'm Marcus Flint, Slytherin prefect and Quidditch captain." His expression was calculating. "This fifth Founder business, what's your angle?" "I don't have an angle. I didn't ask for any of this." Flint's eyes narrowed skeptically. "Everyone has an angle, Potter. Even if they don't know it yet." He leaned closer. "Just remember, when you figure out yours, Slytherin House rewards ambition. Unlike the others, we understand the value of power." With that cryptic statement, he brushed past Harry and continued up the stairs. Troubled, Harry made his way back to his quarters, dodging curious stares and whispers. When he reached the Founder's nexus, he found Ron waiting outside, engaged in a heated argument with the door, which apparently refused to admit him without Harry. "I'm telling you, I'm his friend. Just let me wait inside, it's okay," Harry called, hurrying over. "He's with me." The door swung open immediately, and Ron followed Harry inside, looking around in awe. "Bloody hell, mate. This place is brilliant." "Yeah," Harry agreed, suddenly seeing his quarters through fresh eyes. The circular room with the 5 doors was impressive, like something from a fairy tale. So, Ron plopped into one of the armchairs by the fire. How was your meeting with the minister? Harry sank into the chair opposite, recounting the tense discussion, Umbridge's hostility, and the uncertain compromise they'd reached. Sounds like that Umbridge woman has it in for you, Ron observed. My dad works at the ministry, says she's bad news. Hates anything she can't control. Great, Harry sighed. Another enemy to add to the list. Snape, Malfoy, Umbridge. Don't forget Malfoy's dad on the board of governors, Ron added helpfully. And probably you know who, if he ever comes back. Thanks, Ron, Harry said dryly. That makes me feel loads better. Ron grinned. Just keeping track. On the bright side, you've got me. And Dumbledore seems to be on your side. Oh, and the castle itself, which is pretty cool. As if in response, the fire flared higher, casting a warm glow across the room. Harry felt that now familiar pulse of magic, like a heartbeat echoing his own. It is pretty cool, he admitted. When it's not terrifying. So what are you going to do now? Ron asked. With all this founder business? Harry thought about Dumbledore's advice, about the letter from the founders, about Flint's cryptic offer. I think, he said slowly, I need to figure out what being a founder actually means. Not just what everyone else thinks it means. And then? Harry met his friend's eyes. Then I'll decide what to do with it. The next few weeks passed in a blur of classes, whispers, and discoveries. Harry struggled to find his footing in the strange new reality of being the 5th founder. Without a house, he was both everywhere and nowhere, attending classes with all 4 houses but fully belonging to none of them. Some professors treated him with wary respect, others with skepticism, and Snape with outright hostility. The students were equally divided. Some, like Ron, treated him normally. Others regarded him with awe bordering on reverence, while still others, led by Draco Malfoy, openly questioned his legitimacy. If Potter's a founder, then I'm Merlin himself, Malfoy drawled loudly in the corridor one day. My father says the whole thing is a publicity stunt orchestrated by Dumbledore. Harry tried to ignore the comments, but it wasn't easy. The constant scrutiny wore on him, especially when he hadn't asked for any of it. His one refuge was the founder's nexus and his personal quarters. There, he could escape the stares and whispers. More importantly, there he felt a connection to the castle itself, a subtle awareness of Hogwarts as more than just stone and magic, but as something almost alive. He'd shown Dumbledore the founder's letter as promised, and the headmaster had examined it with great interest. The magic in this parchment is genuine, Dumbledore had confirmed. It was indeed written by the founders themselves, preserved for centuries until the moment you arrived. His blue eyes had twinkled. They seem quite confident in you, Harry. But why me? Harry had asked, the question that had been haunting him since the sorting. What makes me special? That, Dumbledore had replied, is what you must discover for yourself. Now, almost a month into term, Harry sat cross-legged on the floor of his sitting room, surrounded by books about the founders that Hermione had helped him collect from the library. Despite her initial skepticism, she had become fascinated by Harry's unique situation and had appointed herself his unofficial researcher. The problem, she'd explained, is that most historical accounts focus on the founders as individuals. There's very little about their collective magic, or how Hogwarts itself was enchanted. Despite the limited information, Harry had been piecing together clues. He'd learned that each founder had contributed different magic to the castle. Ravenclaw had created the ever-changing floor plan and moving staircases, Hufflepuff had established the kitchens and their bond with house elves, Slytherin had built the complex ward system, and Gryffindor had imbued the castle with its semi-sentience. But none of the books mentioned a potential 5th founder, or why the castle might recognize one after 1,000 years. A knock at his door interrupted Harry's reading. He opened it to find Hermione, looking excited and slightly out of breath. I found something, she announced, clutching a massive, ancient-looking tome. It was in the restricted section. Professor McGonagall gave me a note. She bustled past him, clearing space on a table to open the enormous book. Its leather cover was worn smooth with age, its pages yellowed and fragile. It's called Hogwarts, Foundations and Fundamentals, she explained. Written just 50 years after the founding. And look, she carefully turned to a marked page. There's a mention of a contingency plan. Harry peered at the faded text, which read, "The united in purpose, the four did acknowledge their mortal limitations, and the possibility that future ages might bring challenges unforeseen. Thus did they weave into the very stones of Hogwarts a final enchantment, a recognition spell of surpassing subtlety, designed to identify one who might one day stand as their heir in spirit, if not in blood. Such a one would be welcomed by the castle as its own, granted authorities and insights beyond those of mere residents. Whether this contingency shall ever be needed, only time will reveal." "This has to be talking about you," Hermione exclaimed. "The fifth founder isn't a person they knew about specifically, it's a role they created for someone who might be needed in the future." Harry read the passage again, his heart racing. "But it doesn't say what triggered it. Why now? Why me?" Hermione bit her lip thoughtfully. "The passage mentions challenges unforeseen. Maybe Hogwarts sensed some kind of threat. Or maybe it's because of you-know-who and what happened when you were a baby." "Maybe," Harry said, unconvinced. "But that was 10 years ago." "Well, there's more." Hermione flipped to another marked page. "This part talks about the kind of person the spell would recognize." This passage was even more faded, requiring Harry to squint to make out the words. "The quality sought is not merely power, nor knowledge, nor cunning, nor even loyalty, though all these virtues might be present. Rather, it is a harmony of seeming opposites, a bridge between divided paths. The heir of the four must embody what they, in their wisdom and their folly, could not, the recognition that strength lies not in separation but in unity." Harry sat back, considering. A bridge between divided paths. That sounds like what the letter said about healing divisions. Exactly. Hermione nodded eagerly. "Harry, I think the founders created this contingency because they knew their houses were growing apart. They foresaw that Hogwarts might someday become too fractured by house rivalries. And they thought I could fix that." Harry laughed incredulously. "I can barely get Gryffindors and Slytherins to sit at the same table for breakfast." Hermione's expression grew serious. "Maybe that's exactly why the castle chose you. You don't have preconceived notions about the houses. You see Hogwarts as a whole, not as four separate parts." Before Harry could respond, he felt a now familiar pulse of magic flow through him, stronger than ever before. The castle was responding to Hermione's words, as if confirming them. "I think you're right," he said quietly. "But I still don't know what I'm supposed to do about it." Hermione closed the book carefully. "Maybe you start small. Find ways to bring students from different houses together. Show everyone that house differences can be strengths when they're united, not divided." Harry nodded slowly, an idea beginning to form. "Like a club, maybe. Or study groups with mixed houses." "Exactly." Hermione beamed. "And you have the perfect space for it right here." Harry looked around the founder's nexus with fresh eyes. The circular room with doors to all four houses suddenly seemed purposeful rather than decorative. It wasn't just his private space, it was meant to be a meeting point between the houses. "The Founder's Circle," he said, remembering a phrase from the letter. "That's what they called it." "Perfect." Hermione enthused. "We could meet here, students from all houses, to study together, or practice spells, or just talk." Harry grinned, feeling hopeful for the first time in weeks. "Let's do it. We'll start tomorrow." The castle's magic surged around them, warm and approving. "You want to do what?" Ron asked incredulously at breakfast the next day. "Start a club," Harry repeated. "The Founder's Circle." For students from all houses to study together, practice magic, that sort of thing. Ron looked skeptical. And you think Slytherins are going to want to join? Maybe not all of them, Harry admitted. But I bet some will. He'd been watching the Slytherin table closely over the past weeks, noticing that not all of them followed Malfoy's lead. Some, like a quiet girl named Daphne Greengrass and a tall boy called Blaise Zabini, seemed to keep their distance from Malfoy's clique. It's worth trying, Hermione said firmly. And as the fifth founder, Harry has a responsibility to promote interhouse unity. Ron rolled his eyes. Fine. But don't expect me to be best mates with Malfoy. Nobody expects that miracle, Harry grinned. So you're in? Course I am, Ron said, as if it were obvious. Somebody's got to keep you from getting hexed when the Slytherins show up. After breakfast, they approached students from each house, Neville Longbottom and Dean Thomas from Gryffindor, Susan Bones and Justin Finch-Fletchley from Hufflepuff, Terry Boot and Padma Patil from Ravenclaw. Most agreed readily, curious about both Harry's founder status and the mysterious quarters they'd heard rumors about. The Slytherins were trickier. Malfoy was out of the question, as were his cronies Crabbe and Goyle. Harry eventually spotted Daphne Greengrass studying alone in the library. "Excuse me," he said, approaching her table cautiously. "Could I talk to you for a minute?" She looked up, her expression guarded. "What do you want, Potter?" "I'm starting a study group, the Founders Circle. Students from all houses meeting in my quarters to practice magic together. I was hoping you might join us." Daphne's eyebrows rose slightly. "Why me?" "Because you're not one of Malfoy's followers," Harry said honestly. "And because everyone says you're one of the best in our year at charms." She studied him for a moment, as if weighing his sincerity. "When and where?" "Tonight at 7. The door beside the great hall with the lightning bolt crest." Daphne considered, then nodded once. "I'll come. But I'm bringing Blaise Zabini." "Fine by me," Harry agreed, relieved she hadn't rejected the idea outright. "Potter," she called as he turned to leave. "This isn't some Gryffindor trap, is it?" "Because if it is, it's not," Harry assured her. "It's about bringing houses together, not pitting them against each other." Her expression remained skeptical, but she nodded again. 7 o'clock. Harry spent the afternoon preparing the Founders' Nexus, pushing furniture against the walls to create an open space in the center. By the time 7 o'clock arrived, he was both excited and nervous. Would anyone actually show up? And if they did, would they get along, or would the whole thing devolve into house rivalries? The first knock came precisely at 7. Harry opened the door to find Hermione, accompanied by the Ravenclaws Terry and Padma. "This is amazing," Padma breathed, looking around the circular chamber with its 5 doors and inlaid crest. "I've never seen anything like it." More students arrived in quick succession, the Hufflepuffs, Neville and Dean, and finally, slightly after 7, Daphne and Blaise. "Quite the setup, Potter," Blaise commented, eyeing the room appreciatively. "The castle did you proud." Ron arrived last, slightly out of breath. "Sorry, ran into Filch. Had to take the long way around." He tensed slightly when he spotted the Slytherins but gave Harry a supportive nod. With everyone assembled, 12 students in total, Harry suddenly felt self-conscious. He'd never led anything before, let alone a mixed group of students from all 4 houses. Thanks for coming," he began awkwardly. "I thought we could start by introducing ourselves and maybe talking about what we're good at, magic-wise." "Why are we here, exactly?" Blaise asked, his tone curious rather than confrontational. "What's the point of this?" "Founders' Circle." Harry took a deep breath. "When the Sorting Hat declared me the 5th founder, I didn't know what that meant. I'm still figuring it out. But I've learned that the Founders created a contingency for someone who could help bring the houses together when they'd grown too far apart." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "I think that's why the castle recognized me." Not because I'm special or powerful, but because I don't belong to just one house. The hat couldn't decide where to put me because I had qualities from all four. Daphne's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. So this is what? An experiment in house unity? Kind of, Harry admitted. But it's also practical. We all have different strengths. Different perspectives. If we work together, we can learn more than we would separately. And what exactly are we going to do in these meetings? Terry Boot asked. Practice spells, study for exams, help each other with homework. Whatever we decide together. Harry looked around at the gathered students. This isn't my club where I make all the rules. It's ours. The Founder's Circle belongs to all of us. The mood in the room shifted subtly, a new energy humming beneath the surface. Harry felt the castle's magic responding, warm and approving. I think it's a brilliant idea, Susan Bones said firmly. My aunt always says the house system has its uses, but it can create unnecessary divisions too. I'm in, Neville added quietly. I could use all the help I can get with potions. One by one, the others voiced their support, even the Slytherins. As they began to discuss how the circle should function, Harry felt a weight lift from his shoulders. For the first time since the sorting, his role as the fifth founder didn't feel like a burden, it felt like a purpose. They decided to meet twice a week, Tuesdays for structured study and Saturdays for practicing spells. Leadership would rotate, with different students taking turns teaching the others about their specialties. We should keep it somewhat quiet for now, Daphne suggested. Not secret, exactly, but low-key. Until we figure out how it works. Afraid of what Malfoy will say? Ron challenged. Daphne's expression didn't change. Practical concerns, Weasley. Not everyone will understand what we're trying to do here. Before Ron could respond, the castle trembled beneath them, not violently, but with a gentle pulse of magic that spread outward from where they stood. What was that? Justin asked nervously. Harry smiled, understanding instinctively. It's Hogwarts. I think it approves. As the first meeting continued, with students tentatively crossing house lines to form study partnerships, Harry felt a growing certainty. This, bringing students together, breaking down barriers, was what being the fifth founder was all about. Not power or status, but building bridges. The castle's magic hummed in agreement, stronger than ever before. By the time the meeting ended, Harry had assigned everyone tasks for the next gathering. Hermione would lead a charms review, while Daphne, who'd warmed considerably as the evening progressed, would share some lesser-known hexes and counter-hexes that every proper wizard should know. Not bad, Potter, Blaise commented as the Slytherins prepared to leave. Didn't think you had it in you. Had what in me? The ability to see beyond house prejudices. Blaise's expression was appraising. Most Gryffindors just write all Slytherins off as junior Death Eaters. I don't care what house someone's in, Harry said honestly. I care about who they choose to be. Blaise nodded, something like respect in his eyes. Interesting philosophy. We'll see if you can maintain it. He followed Daphne out, leaving Harry wondering if he'd just made allies or merely postponed making enemies. When everyone had gone except Ron and Hermione, Harry collapsed into an armchair, suddenly exhausted. That went better than I expected, Hermione beamed. Everyone seemed genuinely interested. Yeah, Ron agreed, looking surprised at his own admission. Even the Slytherins weren't completely horrible. That Greengrass girl knows her stuff. We've taken the first step, Harry said. But it's just the beginning. As his friends left and Harry prepared for bed, he found himself drawn to the window in his bedroom, the one that somehow showed the Hogwarts grounds despite being deep inside the castle. The night was clear, stars scattered across the sky like diamonds on black velvet. The castle stood strong and ancient beneath them, its magic a living presence Harry could feel more clearly with each passing day. I'm trying, he whispered to the stones. I hope I'm doing this right. In response, the castle's magic flowed through him, reassuring and steadfast. For the first time since arriving at Hogwarts, Harry felt like he truly belonged. Not to a house, but to Hogwarts itself. And that, he was beginning to understand, was exactly the point. Chapter 2, Founders Magic. The Founders Circle changed everything. By mid-October, what had started as a cautious experiment with 12 students had evolved into something much bigger. Their twice-weekly meetings now drew over 30 students across all years and houses. Even Percy Weasley, for all his initial skepticism, had begun attending to help the younger students with Transfiguration. Harry leaned against the wall of the Nexus, watching fourth-year Cedric Diggory patiently guide Neville through a particularly tricky charm. Across the room, Daphne Greengrass and Hermione were deep in debate about potion ingredients, while Ron organized an impromptu wizard chess tournament that had drawn players from every house. "You've created something special here, Harry," a soft voice said beside him. Harry turned to find Susan Bones, her round face glowing with approval. "It wasn't just me," he replied. "Everyone made it work. But it wouldn't exist without you." Susan gestured around the busy room. "Look at us, Ravenclaws teaching Hufflepuffs, Slytherins working with Gryffindors. When does that ever happen?" Harry couldn't argue with that. The traditional house barriers, while not completely gone, had softened considerably within the circle. Even Blaise Zabini, initially aloof and guarded, now regularly partnered with Dean Thomas to practice defensive spells. "Potter!" Daphne called from across the room. "We need a ruling. Can powdered moonstone substitute for crushed pearl in a calming draft?" "Don't look at me," Harry laughed. "Potions is Snape's department, and he'd probably fail me just for breathing wrong." "But you're the fifth founder," Daphne countered with a sly smile. "Surely you have some innate wisdom to share." Everyone laughed, including Harry. His founder status had become something of an inside joke among circle members, a way of diffusing its strangeness through humor. All right, Harry raised his hands in surrender. "In my vast founderly wisdom, I decree that." He paused, and something strange happened. A flicker of knowledge not his own whispered through his mind. "Actually, it can substitute, but you'd need to stir counterclockwise for 7 rotations instead of 3, and add a drop of lavender oil to stabilize the mixture." The room fell silent. Hermione's eyes widened. "He's right. That's exactly what advanced potion making says, but it's not in our textbook." "How did you know that?" Harry blinked, equally surprised. "I don't know. It just came to me." It wasn't the first time this had happened. Over the past weeks, Harry had experienced several such moments, flashes of insight about the castle or magical knowledge he couldn't possibly have learned. Yesterday, he'd instinctively known that a particular staircase was about to change its destination before it moved. Last week, he'd guided a lost first year through a shortcut even he didn't know existed until the words left his mouth. The castle was sharing its secrets with him. "Seems like your founder powers are growing," Terry Boot observed, intrigued. "Can you tell us where the Ravenclaw common room is without ever having been there?" Harry closed his eyes, reaching for that subtle connection he was learning to recognize. "West Tower, behind a door with a bronze eagle knocker. You have to answer a riddle to enter. Right now the password is..." He concentrated. "Something about stars that don't burn." Terry's jaw dropped. "White dwarfs. The riddle is, what stars are cold but once burned bright?" That's incredible." An excited buzz swept the room. Several students began peppering Harry with questions about hidden passageways, forgotten rooms, and ancient secrets. "Can you find the Chamber of Secrets?" a third-year Slytherin asked eagerly. "Can you control the moving staircases?" another student chimed in. "Whoa, slow down," Harry protested, overwhelmed by the sudden attention. "I'm still figuring this out. The castle shares things sometimes, but I can't just command it to reveal all its secrets." "All right, everyone," Hermione intervened, sensing Harry's discomfort. "Let's get back to studying. We've all got the charms test tomorrow. As the group refocused on their work, Ron sidled up to Harry. That was bloody brilliant with the potion thing. You should see Hermione's face, she's practically green with envy that you know something she doesn't. Harry frowned. I'm not trying to show off. It just happens. Well, it's handy, isn't it? Having Hogwarts slip you answers. It doesn't work that way, Harry explained. It's not like I can ask the castle to help me on exams. The knowledge just comes when it's needed, I guess. Ron looked disappointed. Shame. Would have made Snape's class a lot easier. He glanced at his watch. Speaking of which, we should pack up. It's nearly curfew. As the meeting disbanded, Harry reminded everyone of their next session. The Founders' Circle had developed its own rhythm, Tuesday evenings focused on academics, Saturday afternoons on practical magic, with special sessions for specific subjects as needed. Great meeting, Potter, Cedric Diggory said as he left. My transfiguration marks have gone up a full grade since joining. Professor Sprout actually asked where I'm getting the extra tutoring. What did you tell her? Harry asked curiously. Cedric grinned. The truth. She seemed pleased, said inter-house cooperation is exactly what Hogwarts needs. Though she did warn me not to let it cut into Quidditch practice. Once everyone had gone, Harry collapsed onto one of the sofas, suddenly exhausted. These episodes of castle knowledge left him drained, as if the magic pulled energy from him even as it shared information. You okay? Hermione asked, staying behind to help clean up. Just tired. Harry rubbed his temples, fighting a mild headache. It takes something out of me when that happens. Hermione sat beside him, her expression thoughtful. It's getting stronger, isn't it? Your connection to the castle. Harry nodded. And more frequent. At first, it was just feelings, knowing the castle was happy or worried. Now it's actual knowledge. History. Secrets. Have you told Dumbledore? Not yet. Harry hesitated. It's hard to explain. It feels private. Between me and Hogwarts. But what if it's dangerous? Using magic you don't understand, it doesn't feel dangerous, Harry interrupted. It feels right. Like the castle is teaching me what I need to know to be a proper founder. Hermione didn't look convinced, but she didn't press the issue. Just be careful, Harry. And if anything feels wrong, I'll tell Dumbledore straight away, he promised. After Hermione left, Harry walked to his bedroom window, the magical one that showed the grounds regardless of his actual location in the castle. Tonight it displayed the lake, moonlight dancing across its dark surface. The sight calmed him, as it always did. His life had fallen into a strange new rhythm. By day, he was a student, attending classes with all four houses on his unique schedule, eating at his small table in the Great Hall, dealing with the now familiar mix of awe and skepticism from his peers. By night, he was something else, not quite a professor, not quite a student, but a bridge between worlds. The Founders' Circle was just the most visible manifestation of his evolving role. The professors had adjusted to his status in their own ways. Flitwick treated him with cheerful curiosity, often staying after class to discuss Harry's growing abilities. McGonagall maintained her stern demeanor but had softened enough to provide books on founder history and advanced magic theory. Sprout was unfailingly kind, treating Harry exactly as she did every student. Quirrell seemed oddly nervous around Harry, stuttering even more than usual when addressing him directly. And Snape. Snape remained coldly hostile, though something had changed after that first potions lesson. He no longer openly mocked Harry but watched him with calculating intensity, as if waiting for Harry to reveal some hidden weakness or agenda. Harry turned away from the window with a sigh. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. The Ministry had been suspiciously quiet since Fudge's visit, but according to Percy Weasley, whose father worked for the Ministry, debates were raging behind the scenes about Harry's status and what it meant for Hogwarts governance. One day at a time, Harry told himself firmly. It had become his mantra since the sorting. As he prepared for bed, the castle's magic enveloped him like a warm blanket, protective, reassuring. Whatever challenges lay ahead, Harry knew he wouldn't face them alone. Hogwarts itself was with him. Potter. Harry glanced up from his breakfast to find Marcus Flint looming over his table, flanked by 2 other Slytherin Quidditch players. "What's up, Flint?" The burly 6th year thrust a roll of parchment toward him. "Delivery from Professor Snape. The Board of Governors wants to see you." Harry accepted the scroll warily. "When?" "Today. After lunch." Flint lingered, his expression calculating. "Lucius Malfoy's on the board, you know. Draco's father. He's not exactly thrilled about your situation." "Tell me something I don't know," Harry muttered, breaking the wax seal on the parchment. The message was brief and formal, requesting his presence in the headmaster's office at 1 o'clock to meet with representatives of the Hogwarts Board of Governors regarding his unprecedented status. "You should be careful," Flint said, lowering his voice. "Malfoy doesn't play fair." Harry looked up, surprised by the warning. "Why are you telling me this?" Flint shrugged, his face unreadable. "Let's just say not all Slytherins are thrilled about being under Malfoy's thumb. Some of us recognize alternative power structures." With that cryptic comment, he walked away, rejoining his teammates at the Slytherin table. "What was that about?" Ron asked, sliding into the seat opposite Harry. Harry passed him the notice. "Board of Governors wants a meeting. Flint seems to think Malfoy's father is out to get me." Ron scanned the parchment, frowning. "Dad says Lucius Malfoy has the minister's ear. Throws money around to get what he wants." He looked up, worried. "What are you going to do?" "Go to the meeting, I guess. Not like I have a choice." "You should bring someone with you. For support." Harry considered this. "Dumbledore will be there. He's still the headmaster." "Yeah, but..." Ron trailed off, clearly not satisfied with this reassurance. By lunch, word had spread about the meeting. Harry found himself surrounded by concerned members of the Founders' Circle as he finished his meal. "The board can't actually do anything to you," Hermione insisted. "Your status comes from the Founders' magic, which predates the board's authority." "Maybe on paper," Daphne countered. "But practically speaking, they control Hogwarts funding and policy. They could make things very difficult." "Malfoy's been bragging that his father's going to put Potter in his place," Blaise reported. "Take that for what it's worth." Cedric Diggory, who had joined them midway through the conversation, offered a different perspective. "My father says the board is divided. Some members are intrigued by the fifth founder business, think it could bring prestige to Hogwarts." Harry appreciated their concern but felt increasingly anxious as 1 o'clock approached. This wouldn't be like facing Snape in potions or dealing with Malfoy's taunts. This was political, the kind of battlefield where Harry had no experience. At 10 minutes to 1, he made his way to Dumbledore's office, the stone gargoyle stepping aside without requiring a password. Another sign of his deepening connection to the castle. Dumbledore waited inside, along with Professor McGonagall and, to Harry's surprise, Professor Snape. "Ah, Harry," Dumbledore greeted him warmly. "Right on time. The governors will be arriving momentarily via flow. I thought it prudent to have Professors McGonagall and Snape present, as they can speak to your academic progress. Even though Professor Snape hates me," Harry blurted before he could stop himself. Snape's lip curled. "Contrary to your inflated sense of self-importance, Potter, I neither hate nor love you. I merely observe that your unique position has not improved your lamentable potions skills." "Severus," McGonagall warned. "This is hardly the time." Before Snape could retort, the fireplace flared green, and a tall, aristocratic man with long platinum blonde hair stepped out, brushing ash from his immaculate black robes. Harry immediately recognized Draco's father from his son's pointed features and imperious bearing. Dumbledore, Lucius Malfoy nodded curtly before his cold grey eyes fixed on Harry. And the boy himself. How fascinating. 5 more governors emerged from the flue in quick succession, 3 elderly wizards Harry didn't recognize, a severe-looking witch with steel-grey hair, and a younger, friendlier-faced man who nodded encouragingly at Harry. "Well," said Malfoy, clearly assuming leadership, "shall we begin? We have much to discuss regarding this unprecedented situation." Dumbledore conjured a long table with chairs for everyone. Harry found himself seated between Dumbledore and McGonagall, directly across from Malfoy. "For the record," began the severe witch, "I am Augusta Longbottom, acting secretary for this meeting. Present are Lucius Malfoy, Elphias Doge, Tiberius Ogden, Harrison Davis, and myself, representing the Hogwarts Board of Governors. Also present are Albus Dumbledore, Headmaster, Minerva McGonagall, Deputy Headmistress, Severus Snape, Head of Slytherin House, and Harry Potter, the subject of this inquiry." Harry started at hearing Neville's surname. This stern woman was his formidable grandmother. She gave no sign of recognizing any connection, her expression remaining strictly professional. "To business, then," Malfoy said smoothly. "We are here to address the highly irregular situation regarding Mr. Potter's so-called founder status. The board has serious concerns about the implications for school governance and tradition." "What specific concerns, Lucius?" Dumbledore inquired mildly. Malfoy's smile was thin. "Where to begin? The disruption to the house system that has served Hogwarts for a millennium. The creation of unauthorized spaces within the castle. The establishment of unsanctioned student gatherings outside faculty supervision. And most troublingly, the precedent of granting a first-year student authority that potentially supersedes that of the duly appointed board." "I haven't asked for any authority," Harry interjected. "Mr. Potter speaks out of turn," Malfoy observed coldly. "Perhaps this illustrates my point about his readiness for such responsibility." "The boy was addressed directly," Augusta Longbottom countered. "It seems reasonable he should respond." The friendly-faced governor, Harrison Davis, leaned forward. "Perhaps we should hear from Mr. Potter. What's your understanding of your role here, young man?" Harry took a deep breath, trying to organize his thoughts. "I didn't ask to be the 5th founder. The Sorting Hat declared it, and the castle confirmed it. I'm still learning what it means, but from what I've discovered, the founders created a contingency for someone who could help unite the houses when they grew too divided." "And how are you accomplishing this lofty goal?" Malfoy asked, his tone making it clear he found the idea ridiculous. "The Founders' Circle," Harry answered, gaining confidence. "It's a club where students from all houses come together to study, practice magic, and get to know each other beyond house boundaries." "Yes, this club," Malfoy's lips curled around the word. "Conducted without proper faculty oversight, I understand." "That's not true," McGonagall interjected firmly. "The circle operates with full knowledge of the staff. Several professors, myself included, have observed meetings. And found them exemplary," added Dumbledore. "In fact, the academic improvement among participating students has been remarkable. Professor Flitwick reports that circle members showed a 30% improvement on their recent exam compared to non-participants." The elderly wizard named Elphias Doge nodded approvingly. "Inter-house cooperation leading to academic improvement. Sounds like exactly the kind of initiative Hogwarts should encourage." Malfoy's expression hardened. "The issue is not the club's effectiveness but its origin and oversight. Mr. Potter has effectively declared himself above the house system, a system established by the original founders themselves." "I think you misunderstand, Lucius," Dumbledore said gently. "Harry did not declare himself anything. The Sorting Hat, imbued with the founder's own magic, recognized him as the 5th founder. And the castle itself has responded to that recognition in ways none of us can deny." "Parlor tricks and coincidences," Malfoy scoffed. "Is that what you call this?" Harry challenged, his patience wearing thin. He closed his eyes, connecting with the castle's magic. The room trembled slightly, and then, to everyone's astonishment, the stones of the wall rearranged themselves, forming a perfect relief sculpture of the Hogwarts crest with Harry's lightning and feather emblem in the center. Gasps echoed around the table. Even Snape looked startled. "The castle responds to him," McGonagall stated firmly. "That is not a parlor trick, Lucius. That is founder magic." Malfoy's face had paled slightly, but he recovered quickly. "All the more concerning. An 11-year-old boy with no training, wielding power over the very structure of Hogwarts. The potential for disaster is immense. Which is precisely why we are guiding him," Dumbledore countered. "Harry is still a student, learning to understand and control his abilities. But denying his status would be futile, the magic has already recognized him." The debate continued, growing increasingly heated. The board was clearly divided. Malfoy led those opposing Harry's status, while Doge and Davis supported it, with the others wavering between positions. Throughout it all, Harry noticed that Snape remained unusually silent, his dark eyes missing nothing. Finally, Augusta Longbottom called for order. "We seem to be at an impasse. Perhaps we should directly assess Mr. Potter's understanding of his role and responsibilities." All eyes turned to Harry, who straightened in his chair. "I know I'm young," he said carefully. "I know I have a lot to learn. But I also know that Hogwarts chose me for a reason. The founders left contingencies for a time when the houses needed to be brought together, and somehow, that time is now." He took a breath, feeling the castle's magic flowing through him, steadying him. "I'm not trying to replace anyone's authority. I'm not trying to change Hogwarts traditions. I'm just trying to fulfill the purpose the founders set out, to make Hogwarts a place where different types of witches and wizards can learn from each other, not just stay in their separate corners." The room fell silent. Even Malfoy seemed momentarily lost for words. "Well said, Mr. Potter," Harrison Davis broke the silence. "I, for one, am satisfied that your intentions align with the founders' vision." "Intentions are not qualifications," Malfoy countered, but his argument had lost some of its edge. In the end, they reached a compromise that satisfied no one completely. Harry would retain his unique status and quarters, and the Founders' Circle would continue with explicit faculty oversight. In return, Harry would submit monthly reports to the board on his activities and would not interfere with established school policies without prior consultation. "This matter is far from settled," Malfoy warned as the meeting concluded. "The Ministry itself has expressed concerns." "The Ministry is welcome to observe Mr. Potter's progress," Dumbledore replied serenely. "I believe they will be as impressed as we are." As the governors departed through the flue, Malfoy lingered, his cold eyes fixing on Harry once more. "You've made quite an impression, Mr. Potter," he said softly. "But I wonder, do you really understand what you've stepped into? The wizarding world's power structures are ancient and complex. Not everything is as straightforward as house points and Quidditch cups." "I'm learning," Harry replied evenly. Malfoy's smile didn't reach his eyes. "See that you do. There are forces at work beyond your comprehension, Mr. Potter. Forces that will not be swayed by schoolboy charm or convenient scars." With that ominous statement, he disappeared into the green flames, leaving Harry with a chill that had nothing to do with the drafty castle. "Well," said McGonagall after a moment, "that went about as well as could be expected." "Indeed," Dumbledore agreed. "Lucius made his play, but the board remains divided. For now, at least, your position is secure, Harry." "But he's right, isn't he?" Harry asked quietly. "This isn't over." "No," Dumbledore's blue eyes were serious behind his half-moon spectacles. "I'm afraid it's only beginning." The castle was different on Halloween. Harry noticed it the moment he woke, a peculiar vibration in the magic, like the low hum of distant music. As he dressed, the sensation grew stronger, a current of energy that seemed to flow through the very stones. "You feel it too, don't you?" he murmured to the walls. In response, the torches in his room flared brighter, casting dancing shadows across the floor. Halloween at Hogwarts was a spectacle unlike anything Harry had experienced. The Great Hall was transformed with floating jack-o'-lanterns, live bats swooping between the enchanted ceiling and the tables, and elaborate decorations that seemed to move when you weren't looking directly at them. But beneath the festive atmosphere, Harry sensed something deeper, a resonance in the castle's magic that felt ancient and significant. Hogwarts was dedicated on All Hallows' Eve, Hermione explained when Harry mentioned it at breakfast. According to Hogwarts, a history, the four founders completed the castle's central enchantments on Halloween night, when the boundary between the magical and mundane worlds is thinnest. That explains what I'm feeling, Harry said. It's like the castle is, remembering. Hermione looked fascinated. Do you think you could tap into those memories? See what Hogwarts was like when it was first built? I don't know. It's not like I control this connection. It's more like, the castle chooses what to share. Throughout the day, the sensation intensified. In Charms class, Harry accidentally made all the feathers in the room levitate simultaneously when Professor Flitwick mentioned the holiday. During herbology, the plants leaned toward him as if drawn by his presence. By the time evening approached, Harry felt as if his skin was humming with excess magical energy. You all right, mate? Ron asked as they headed to the Halloween feast. You look a bit peaky. Just feeling weird, Harry admitted. Too much magic in the air or something. The Great Hall was at its most spectacular for the feast, thousands of candles floating amid the swooping bats, the golden plates and goblets gleaming in their light. Harry took his place at the small founder's table, feeling oddly exposed as the magic continued to surge around him. The feast appeared suddenly on the golden plates, as impressive as the start-of-term banquet. Harry was just serving himself a jacket potato when Professor Quirrell came sprinting into the hall, his turban askew and terror on his face. Troll, he gasped, reaching Dumbledore's chair. In the dungeons, thought you ought to know. He then sank to the floor in a dead faint. The hall erupted in chaos. It took several purple firecrackers exploding from the end of Dumbledore's wand to bring silence. Prefects, he rumbled, lead your houses back to the dormitories immediately. Teachers will follow me to the dungeons. Percy Weasley leapt into action, calling for Gryffindors to follow him. Similar scenes played out at the other house tables, with students forming anxious lines behind their prefects. Harry stood uncertainly by his table, caught between groups. He wasn't in a house, where should he go? Then a terrifying thought struck him. Ron, he grabbed his friend's arm. Hermione, she doesn't know about the troll. Ron's face paled. What? Where is she? I overheard Parvati telling Lavender that Hermione's been crying in the girls' bathroom all afternoon. She wasn't at any of the classes after lunch. Ron bit his lip, clearly torn between following Percy's orders and helping their friend. The bathroom on this floor? I think so. Come on. They slipped away from the Gryffindors, ducking behind a group of hurrying Hufflepuffs. As they turned down a deserted corridor, Harry suddenly staggered, a wave of wrongness washing over him. Harry. Ron steadied him. What's wrong? Something's in the castle that shouldn't be, Harry gasped. The magical energy that had been building all day seemed to focus like a lens, highlighting a presence that felt alien and threatening. The troll, it's not in the dungeons anymore. It's heading this way. How do you? The castle is warning me, Harry interrupted, breaking into a run. Come on. Hermione's in danger. They sprinted down the corridor, rounding the corner just in time to hear a high, petrified scream coming from the very bathroom they were heading for. Hermione, they shouted together, redoubling their pace. The sight that met them was terrifying. A mountain troll, 12 feet tall with dull granite-gray skin, was advancing on Hermione, who was shrinking against the wall opposite, looking ready to faint. The troll was knocking sinks off the walls as it went, its tiny head perched atop its massive body like a coconut on a boulder. Confuse it. Harry yelled desperately, seizing a tap and throwing it against the wall. The troll stopped, blinking stupidly, then turned its ugly snout toward Harry, deciding he was the new threat. "Oi, pea-brain!" Ron shouted from the other side of the bathroom, throwing a metal pipe at the creature. It didn't seem to notice the pipe hitting its shoulder, but it heard the yell and lumbered toward Ron instead. Harry seized the opportunity to dart around the troll, pulling Hermione toward the door. "Come on, run, run!" But Hermione couldn't move, still flat against the wall, her mouth open with terror. The shouting and echoes seemed to be driving the troll berserk. It roared and started toward Ron, who had no way to escape. Harry did something both very brave and very foolish. He took a running jump and managed to fasten his arms around the troll's neck from behind. The troll couldn't feel Harry hanging there, but even a troll would notice if a wand was jabbed up its nose, and Harry's wand, still in his hand when he jumped, had gone straight up one of the troll's nostrils. Howling with pain, the troll twisted and flailed, trying to dislodge Harry, who clung on for dear life. Any second now, the troll would rip him off or smash him with its club. "Do something!" Harry shouted to Ron. Hermione had sunk to the floor in fright, but Ron pulled out his own wand and cried, "Wingardium Leviosa!" The troll's club flew suddenly out of its hand, rose high into the air, turned slowly over, and dropped with a sickening crack onto its owner's head. The troll swayed, then fell flat on its face with a thud that made the whole room tremble. Harry got to his feet, shaking and out of breath. Ron stood with his wand still raised, staring at what he had done. It was Hermione who spoke first. "Is it dead?" "I don't think so," Harry said, retrieving his wand from the troll's nose. "Just knocked out." A moment later, Professor McGonagall burst into the room, followed closely by Snape and Quirrell. Quirrell took one look at the troll, let out a faint whimper, and sat quickly on a toilet, clutching his heart. Snape bent over the troll, while McGonagall glared at Ron and Harry with fury in her eyes. "What on earth were you thinking?" she demanded, cold anger in her voice. "You're lucky you weren't killed. Why aren't you in your dormitories?" Then a small voice came out of the shadows. "Please, Professor McGonagall, they were looking for me. Miss Granger." Hermione had managed to get to her feet at last. "I went looking for the troll because I thought I could deal with it on my own, you know, because I've read all about them." Harry and Ron stared, stunned by this blatant lie from rule-abiding Hermione. "If they hadn't found me, I'd be dead now." Harry sensed where the troll was heading. He knew it wasn't in the dungeons anymore. And Ron knocked it out with its own club. They didn't have time to fetch anyone. It was about to finish me off when they arrived. Harry and Ron tried to look as though this story wasn't new to them. "Well, in that case," said McGonagall, staring at the three of them, "Miss Granger, you foolish girl, how could you think of tackling a mountain troll on your own?" Hermione hung her head, and Harry was speechless. Hermione Granger, telling a downright lie to a teacher. The world must be ending. "Miss Granger, 5 points will be taken from Gryffindor for this," said McGonagall. "I'm very disappointed in you. If you're not hurt at all, you'd better get off to Gryffindor Tower." Hermione left, and McGonagall turned to Harry and Ron. "Well, I still say you were lucky, but not many first years could have taken on a full-grown mountain troll. You each win 5 points for your house." She paused, looking at Harry. "Or, in your case, Mr. Potter, for you." Harry nodded, understanding her confusion about how to award points to someone outside the house system. "You may go." As they hurried out of the chamber, Harry noticed Snape giving him a strange, calculating look. Then he spotted something else, a tear in Snape's trouser leg, revealing what looked like a nasty, bloody gash on his calf. Snape quickly covered it, his black eyes flashing a warning at Harry. They didn't speak until they were 2 floors up, the adrenaline beginning to wear off. "That was mental," Ron finally said. "Absolute mental." "Thanks for the help," Harry replied. Quick thinking with that levitation charm. Not as quick as you knowing where the troll was, Ron countered. How did you do that? Harry frowned, trying to articulate what had happened. It wasn't me, exactly. It was Hogwarts. The castle knew something dangerous had entered, something that didn't belong. And because it's Halloween, when the Founder's magic is strongest, I could feel it more clearly than usual. That's actually useful, Ron said, impressed. Like having a built-in security system. They reached the portrait of the fat lady, where Hermione was waiting for them. There was an awkward pause before they all said thanks at the same time, then laughed, the shared danger having forged a new bond between them. I should get back to my quarters, Harry said. The castle feels unsettled. I want to check if anything else is wrong. Hermione looked worried. Be careful, Harry. And, thank you both. Really. As Harry made his way through the eerily quiet corridors toward the Founder's nexus, he felt the castle's magic still surging around him, though differently now, less celebratory, more vigilant. Something had changed tonight, beyond just their encounter with the troll. Harry couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. What's wrong? He murmured to the stones. What else happened tonight? No clear answer came, but when Harry reached his quarters, he found a letter waiting on his desk that hadn't been there before, another message in that same elegant, ancient script. To the fifth Founder, on the night of dedication, the veil between past and present thins. What was hidden may be revealed, what was lost may be found. Follow the castle's guidance. Trust what it shows you. The first trial approaches. Remember that unity is your strength. Unlike the previous letter, this one was signed with only a single name, Rowena Ravenclaw. Harry stared at the parchment, a chill running down his spine despite the warm fire crackling in his hearth. The first trial? What did that mean? He went to his window, the one that showed the grounds regardless of his room's actual location in the castle. Tonight it displayed the Forbidden Forest, a sight Harry had never seen through this window before. The dark trees swayed in a wind he couldn't feel, their shadows stretching like grasping hands. Show me what I need to see, Harry whispered to the castle. The window's view shifted, zooming closer to the forest edge. A flash of movement caught Harry's eye, a cloaked figure moving swiftly between the trees, heading toward the castle. Something about its furtive movement set alarm bells ringing in Harry's mind. The view changed again, this time showing the third-floor corridor, the one Dumbledore had warned was forbidden at the start of term. The same cloaked figure was approaching a door at the end of the corridor, drawing a wand. And then, most disturbing of all, the window showed Snape, limping badly, intercepting the figure just before it could cast a spell on the door. Words were exchanged, angry ones, judging by their postures, before both departed in opposite directions. The window clouded over, returning to its normal view of the lake and grounds. Harry sat heavily on his bed, trying to make sense of what he'd just witnessed. Was Snape protecting whatever lay beyond that door? Or had he been the cloaked figure Harry first saw, only to be caught by someone else? One thing was certain, something valuable or dangerous was hidden in the third-floor corridor, and someone had tried to get to it tonight while everyone was distracted by the troll. The first trial, Harry murmured, remembering Ravenclaw's letter. Was this what she meant? But how could the Founders have known about something happening 1,000 years later? Unless the cycle had happened before. Unless Hogwarts had faced similar threats throughout its history, and the Founders had prepared for them. Too restless to sleep, Harry paced his quarters, the magical energy of Halloween still thrumming through him. On impulse, he decided to explore the castle. Perhaps the heightened connection would reveal more about what was happening. He slipped out into the darkened corridors, not bothering with his invisibility cloak. Somehow, he knew the castle would warn him of any approaching teachers. His feet carried him without conscious direction, guided by the subtle pulse of magic. He passed sleeping portraits, their occupants snoring gently in ornate frames. Ghost-like figures of cats prowled along the baseboards, not real cats, but magical echoes of the thousands of felines that had stalked these halls over the centuries. Harry found himself drawn upward, climbing staircases that seemed to arrange themselves specifically for his passage. The castle's magic grew stronger with each floor, pulling him towards something important. Finally, he reached a corridor he didn't recognize, deep within the castle's heart. A large wooden door stood before him, its surface carved with intricate symbols that seemed to shift and change as he watched. "What is this place?" Harry whispered. In response, the door swung open, revealing a circular chamber bathed in soft, silvery light. At its center stood a magnificent mirror, as high as the ceiling, with an ornate gold frame standing on two clawed feet. An inscription was carved around the top, Erised stra eru oit ube kafru oit onwosi. Harry approached cautiously, drawn by the mirror's mysterious beauty. As he stood before it, the surface clouded, then cleared to reveal an astonishing sight. Harry saw himself, but not alone. Standing around him in a semicircle were four figures dressed in medieval robes. Though he had never seen their faces, Harry somehow knew instantly who they were, the four founders of Hogwarts. Godric Gryffindor, tall and broad-shouldered, with a mane of reddish-gold hair and a gleaming sword at his belt. Helga Hufflepuff, round-faced and kind-eyed, her hands extended in welcome. Rowena Ravenclaw, elegant and severe, a glittering diadem upon her dark hair. And Salazar Slytherin, pale and proud, his calculating eyes softened by what looked almost like approval. They stood with Harry as equals, their hands resting on his shoulders or clasped with his. Behind them, Hogwarts Castle shimmered, more beautiful and perfect than Harry had ever seen it, every tower intact, every stone gleaming. "The founders," Harry breathed, reaching out to touch the mirror's surface. "I see you've discovered the mirror of Erised." Harry whirled around to find Dumbledore standing in the doorway, his silver beard gleaming in the moonlight filtering through high windows. "Professor. I'm sorry, I was just following the castle's guidance, I expect," Dumbledore finished for him, his eyes twinkling. "On Halloween night, no less. The Founder's magic is strong tonight." Harry nodded, relieved that Dumbledore didn't seem angry. "The mirror, what is it?" "The mirror of Erised shows the deepest, most desperate desire of our hearts." Dumbledore moved to stand beside Harry, gazing at the mirror. "Interesting. Most people see themselves with loved ones lost, or achieving great ambitions. You see yourself with the original founders, accepted as their equal." Harry looked back at the image. "Is that what I want most? To be accepted?" "Perhaps," Dumbledore mused, "or perhaps to understand your purpose. To know that you belong in the role you've been given." He peered at Harry curiously. "May I ask what brought you exploring tonight, of all nights?" Harry hesitated, then decided on honesty. The troll was a distraction, wasn't it? Someone tried to get past the third-floor corridor while everyone was searching the dungeons. Dumbledore's eyebrows rose slightly. "What makes you say that?" "The castle showed me. Through my window." Harry explained what he'd witnessed, including Snape's injured leg. "Fascinating," Dumbledore murmured. "Your connection to Hogwarts grows stronger indeed." He was silent for a moment, seemingly debating how much to tell Harry. "You are correct that something valuable is hidden in the third-floor corridor. It is being protected by various enchantments, including a rather large three-headed dog." "That explains Snape's leg," Harry said. "But why is it here? What's so important that someone would use a troll as a diversion to try to steal it?" Dumbledore studied Harry over his half-moon spectacles. "The object in question is called the Philosopher's Stone, created by my friend Nicholas Flamel. It produces the elixir of life, which grants immortality, and can transform any metal into pure gold." Harry's eyes widened. "And someone's trying to steal it? Who?" "That," said Dumbledore gravely, "is the question. There are many who would desire such power, both for its wealth and for its promise of eternal life." A chill ran down Harry's spine as he remembered Ravenclaw's letter. "The first trial approaches," he quoted softly. I beg your pardon. Harry explained about the letter that had appeared in his quarters after the troll incident, signed by Rowena Ravenclaw. Dumbledore's expression grew serious. The Founders seem determined to guide you directly, Harry. This is remarkable, and somewhat concerning. They speak of trials as if they expected challenges to come. Do you think they knew about the stone, about someone trying to steal it? Not specifically, perhaps, Dumbledore replied. But they may have understood that Hogwarts would face threats throughout its existence, and that the fifth Founder would be called when such a threat emerged. He gazed again at the mirror of Erised. It cannot be coincidence that the castle guided you here tonight. The mirror reveals more than just desires, to those who know how to use it. Harry looked back at the reflection. The Founders were still there, but now they seemed to be trying to show him something, a glowing red stone cradled in his mirror self's hands. The stone, Harry whispered. I can see it in the mirror. Dumbledore nodded approvingly. The mirror will be the final protection for the stone. It shows the stone to you now because the castle wishes you to understand what is at stake. He placed a hand on Harry's shoulder. But I must caution you, Harry, the mirror of Erised can be dangerous. Men have wasted away before it, entranced by what they see, or been driven mad by the impossible visions it presents. I understand, Harry said, though reluctantly tearing his eyes away from the Founders' faces. Professor, what should I do about all this? The stone, the person trying to steal it. For now, remain vigilant. Continue developing your connection to the castle, it seems determined to help you prepare for whatever lies ahead. Dumbledore's eyes grew distant. I fear the danger to the stone is but a symptom of a deeper threat awakening. One that may explain why Hogwarts has called for its fifth Founder after 1,000 years. With that sobering thought, Dumbledore escorted Harry back to his quarters, leaving him with more questions than answers. Harry, mate, you need to sleep sometimes, Ron said the next morning at breakfast. You look like you've seen a ghost, and not the friendly Hogwarts kind. Sorry, Harry yawned. Weird night. He'd tossed and turned until dawn, his mind racing between the troll, the cloaked figure, the Philosopher's Stone, and the mirror of Erised. When he finally did sleep, his dreams were filled with the Founders' faces and warnings of trials to come. Did something happen? Hermione asked, sliding into the seat beside them. Since the troll incident, she'd taken to joining Harry and Ron at the Founders' table for meals, a pattern that had encouraged other Founders' Circle members to occasionally do the same, much to the consternation of traditionalists like Percy. Harry lowered his voice, quickly filling them in on what he'd learned about the Philosopher's Stone and the attempted theft. Blimey, Ron whispered. So someone let that troll in on purpose, as a diversion? That's mental, Hermione said, wide-eyed. Who would want the stone badly enough to do that? Someone who wants immortality or unlimited gold, Harry replied grimly. Or both, Ron added. Dad says there are dark wizards who do anything for that kind of power. Hermione frowned thoughtfully. And you think Professor Snape caught them in the act? That's why his leg was injured. Or, Ron suggested darkly, Snape was the one trying to get past the dog. That doesn't make sense, Harry argued. The window showed him intercepting someone else. Windows can be misleading, Ron muttered. Their debate was interrupted by the arrival of the morning mail. Hundreds of owls streamed into the great hall, circling until they spotted their owners. To Harry's surprise, a handsome tawny owl landed before him, carrying a small, carefully wrapped package. You got mail? Ron said, surprised. You never get mail. Harry unwrapped the package cautiously. Inside was a small, leather-bound journal and a note written in Dumbledore's flowing script. Harry, I believe this might help you better understand your connection to Hogwarts. It once belonged to another who shared a special bond with the castle, though in a different capacity than yours. Use it wisely, Albus Dumbledore. Harry turned the journal over in his hands. It looked very old, its leather cover worn smooth by time. When he opened it, he found the pages filled with neat, precise handwriting, dating back nearly 50 years. What is it? Hermione asked, leaning over to see. Some kind of journal, Harry replied, scanning the first entry. It belonged to someone named Tom Riddle. The first entries described Riddle's arrival at Hogwarts as a first year, his sorting into Slytherin, his classes, his discovery of the library. But as Harry flipped further through the journal, he found detailed observations about the castle itself, how its magic functioned, the patterns of its movements, hidden passages and forgotten rooms that weren't on any map. He was studying Hogwarts, Harry realized aloud. Really intensely. Why would Dumbledore give you this? Ron wondered. Harry wasn't sure, but as he continued reading, he began to understand. Tom Riddle, whoever he was, had possessed an extraordinary sensitivity to the castle's magic, not like Harry's founder connection, but something similar. He documented experiments with the castle's enchantments, theories about its core magical structure, and methods for attuning oneself to its rhythms. This is brilliant, Hermione breathed, reading over Harry's shoulder. He understood magical architecture in a way that's centuries ahead of his time. These notes on the moving staircases alone could be published in Architectural Enchantments Monthly. But why did Riddle stop writing? Ron asked, pointing to the last filled page, dated June 1943. The rest of the journal is empty. Harry shrugged, equally puzzled. Maybe he graduated? Or lost interest? Or something happened, Hermione suggested darkly. Dumbledore wouldn't have given you this without a reason, Harry. Whatever the reason, it's useful, Harry decided, tucking the journal into his robes. Riddle figured out ways to communicate with the castle more clearly. If I can learn some of his techniques. The implications hung unspoken between them. With a stronger connection to Hogwarts, Harry might better understand the threat to the stone, and his own role as the fifth founder. The following weeks were a whirlwind of activity. Between classes, the increasingly popular Founder's Circle, and his private studies of Riddle's journal, Harry barely had time to breathe. The journal proved invaluable. Following Riddle's methods, Harry learned to focus his awareness of the castle's magic, to distinguish between its different voices, the playful magic of the moving staircases, the protective enchantments of the outer walls, the warm, nurturing spells of the common areas. Most importantly, he discovered how to ask the castle-specific questions through a form of magical meditation Riddle had developed. It wasn't like normal conversation, more like exchanging impressions and emotions, but it allowed Harry to communicate with Hogwarts more deliberately than before. It's working, he told Ron and Hermione one evening in late November, as they sat by the fire in his quarters. I can sense things more clearly now. Yesterday I asked about the Philosopher's Stone, and the castle showed me all 7 protections guarding it. 7. Hermione looked impressed. What are they? Fluffy, that's the 3-headed dog. Then Devil's Snare, enchanted keys, a giant chess set, a troll, a logic puzzle with potions, and finally, the Mirror of Erised. Blimey, Ron whistled. That's serious security. Each protection was set by a different professor, Harry continued. Hagrid provided Fluffy, Sprout the Devil's Snare, Flitwick charmed the keys, McGonagall transfigured the chess set, Quirrell contributed the troll, Quirrell. Ron interrupted, skeptical. The bloke's afraid of his own shadow. He is the defense teacher, Hermione pointed out. He must know something about trolls, even if he's not very brave. Snape created the potion puzzle, Harry continued, and Dumbledore enchanted the mirror. So it would take all their different expertise to get through, Hermione mused. Clever. Harry nodded. But there's something else. The castle feels concerned. Like it doesn't think the protections are enough. Against who? Ron asked. Who's trying to steal it? Harry hesitated. I've been getting these impressions, just flashes, really. Sometimes when I'm near Quirrell, the castle's magic sort of recoils. Like it senses something wrong. Hermione frowned. Professor Quirrell. Are you sure? Not entirely, Harry admitted. It's confusing. Sometimes I get the same feeling around other people, Snape, occasionally, though that could just be because he hates me. Once even around Malfoy, though that was weaker. Maybe the castle's picking up on anyone with bad intentions? Ron suggested. Malfoy's a prat, but he's not exactly stone-stealing material. It could be, Harry said, though something about that explanation didn't satisfy him. Anyway, I'm going to keep working with Riddle's techniques. The more I understand what the castle is trying to tell me, the better prepared we'll be for whatever's coming. The conversation shifted to the upcoming holidays. Ron would be staying at Hogwarts while his parents visited his brother Charlie in Romania. Hermione was heading home to spend Christmas with her family. As for Harry, the question hadn't even come up. Hogwarts was his home now in a way the Dursleys' house had never been. The castle feels different during the holidays, Percy Weasley told Harry after a Founders' Circle meeting in early December. Fewer students, more space for the magic to breathe. You'll notice it as the fifth founder, Hogwarts gets contemplative when it's quiet. Percy had gradually come around to accepting Harry's unique status, especially after seeing the academic benefits of the Founders' Circle. He'd even started bringing his girlfriend, Penelope Clearwater, to meetings, though he still insisted on maintaining proper decorum within the circle. As the end of term approached, an unexpected development brought Harry's founder status back into the spotlight. Professor McGonagall stopped him after Transfiguration one afternoon, her expression unusually hesitant. "Potter, there is a matter I wish to discuss with you," she began. "As you know, the Hogwarts Board of Governors agreed to recognize your unique position with certain conditions." "Yes, Professor. I've been sending monthly reports like they asked." "Indeed, and they have been most impressed with the Founders' Circle initiative." McGonagall straightened her spectacles. "The matter I wish to raise concerns the upcoming holiday festivities. Traditionally, the headmaster and heads of houses oversee the Yule celebrations. However, given your status..." Harry blinked, not understanding her point. "Yes. The board has suggested, quite strongly, that you should participate in the official ceremonies as the fifth founder. Including the Yule lighting and the blessing of the feast." Oh. Harry hadn't considered this aspect of his role before. "What would I need to do?" McGonagall's expression softened slightly. "Nothing overly complicated. You would join the ceremonial procession, help ignite the Yule log with founder magic, and recite a traditional blessing before the feast." She hesitated. "There is also traditionally a small gift from each founder to the school, though in your case, this could be symbolic." "A gift?" Harry repeated, alarmed. "I don't have anything to give." "As I said, it could be symbolic," McGonagall reassured him. "A gesture of goodwill toward the students and the castle itself." Harry felt a knot forming in his stomach. This sounded suspiciously like being put on display, exactly the kind of attention he'd been trying to avoid. "Professor, can I ask something? Why is the board suddenly interested in having me participate in ceremonies? Malfoy's father made it pretty clear he doesn't even believe I'm a real founder." McGonagall's lips thinned. "Politics, Potter. Having observed that they cannot dismiss your status, certain members of the board now seem interested in controlling how it's perceived. Creating a narrative they can manage. Making me perform like a trained monkey, you mean," Harry muttered. "I wouldn't put it quite so crudely, but essentially, yes." McGonagall's eyes flashed with rare emotion. "For what it's worth, I advised against putting you in this position. You're still a first-year student, founder status notwithstanding. But I was overruled." Harry sighed, resigning himself to yet another uncomfortable public spectacle. "I'll do it, Professor. But I'll need help with the traditional parts. I don't know the blessing or whatever else I'm supposed to say." "Of course. I'll arrange for you to meet with Professor Binns, who can instruct you in the ceremonial aspects." She paused. "And Potter? For the gift, consider what the castle itself might value from its fifth founder. The answer may be simpler than you think. With that enigmatic advice, she dismissed him. News of Harry's participation in the Yule ceremonies spread quickly through the school. Most students seemed excited by the prospect, centuries of tradition blending with the novel concept of a fifth founder. Even some of the Slytherins expressed curiosity about how the castle's magic would respond to Harry's formal role in the rituals. Others, predictably, were less enthusiastic. Making a mockery of sacred traditions, Draco Malfoy declared loudly in the corridor outside potions. "My father says it's an insult to the original founders." "Funny," Blaise Zabini countered coolly, "considering your father was the one who insisted Potter participate." Malfoy flushed. "As a matter of proper oversight, obviously. Someone needs to ensure he doesn't corrupt the ceremonies with his ignorance." "Oversight. Right." Blaise rolled his eyes. "Nothing to do with making Potter look foolish in front of the entire school." Harry, overhearing this exchange, felt his anxiety spike. Was that Lucius Malfoy's game? Setting him up to fail publicly? "Don't let Malfoy get to you," Ron advised when Harry shared his concerns. "He's just jealous because you're getting attention he thinks he deserves." Besides, Hermione added practically, "you have weeks to prepare. Professor Binns will teach you everything you need to know about the ceremonies." As it turned out, Professor Binns was both the best and worst possible instructor for the task. On one hand, the ghost knew every detail of Hogwarts ceremonial traditions, having observed them for centuries. On the other hand, his droning delivery made it nearly impossible to stay awake during his explanations. The Yule ritual of Hogwarts dates back to 1026 CE, Binns intoned, floating a few inches above his chair in his office. Established by the four founders as a means of renewing the castle's protective enchantments during the winter solstice, when magical energies reach their annual nadir in the northern hemisphere. Harry stifled a yawn, trying desperately to focus. "And what exactly will I need to do, Professor?" Binns blinked, as if surprised to be interrupted. "You, Mr. Potter, as the fifth founder, will process with the headmaster and heads of houses from the astronomy tower to the Great Hall, bearing the ceremonial flame. At the Great Hall, you will assist in igniting the Yule log, recite the founder's blessing, and present your gift to the school." "And the founder's blessing, what exactly do I say?" Binns recited a paragraph of archaic English that Harry could barely follow, full of "these" and "thous" and references to magic's eternal flame. "I have to memorize all that?" Harry asked, dismayed. "Certainly not," Binns replied. "You will adapt the traditional blessing to your own words, expressing the same sentiments of protection, wisdom, courage, and ambition that the original founders valued." He fixed Harry with his translucent gaze. "The power of the blessing lies not in its specific wording but in the founder's intent." That was somewhat reassuring, though Harry still felt woefully unprepared. The ceremonies were only 2 weeks away, and he had yet to figure out what his gift to the school would be. "The gift need not be material," Binns explained when Harry asked. "Historically, the founders' gifts have represented their unique contributions to Hogwarts. Gryffindor traditionally renewed the castle's courage, Ravenclaw its wisdom, Hufflepuff its heart, and Slytherin its ambition." "But what's my contribution?" Harry pressed. "What does the fifth founder represent?" Binns looked momentarily stumped, his ghostly features becoming even more transparent. "That, Mr. Potter, is for you to determine. You are, after all, the first of your kind." More helpful was Dumbledore, who summoned Harry to his office a week before the ceremonies. "How are your preparations progressing?" the headmaster asked, offering Harry a lemon drop, which he declined. "Honestly? Not great, sir. I understand the procession and the Yule lighting well enough, but I'm still struggling with the blessing and the gift." Dumbledore nodded thoughtfully. "The traditional aspects can be taught, Harry, but the essence of the role must come from within you. What do you believe the fifth founder represents to Hogwarts?" Harry considered the question seriously. "Unity, I think." The founder's letter said I was meant to heal divisions between the houses. The founder's circle seems to support that idea. Unity, Dumbledore repeated, smiling. A worthy purpose indeed, and one sorely needed in these times. He leaned forward, his blue eyes intent. Consider this, Harry, if unity is your purpose, perhaps that should inform your blessing and your gift. But how do I give unity as a gift? Perhaps not unity itself, but a means to achieve it, Dumbledore suggested. A gesture that symbolizes your commitment to bringing the houses together. Harry nodded slowly, an idea beginning to form. I think I understand, Professor. Thank you. As he left Dumbledore's office, Harry felt more confident about the upcoming ceremonies. The castle seemed to approve as well, the suits of armor lining the corridor saluted as he passed, their metal gauntlets clanking against their breastplates. The final piece fell into place 3 days before the ceremonies, during the last Founders' Circle meeting of the term. Harry had been discussing his ceremonial duties with the group, most of whom were eager to offer advice and encouragement. The Yule blessing is about renewal, Susan Bones explained. My aunt says it's one of the most powerful moments in the wizarding calendar, when we acknowledge the darkness of winter but celebrate the return of light. The gift is symbolic, added Percy importantly. It doesn't have to be elaborate, just meaningful. As the discussion continued, Harry noticed the 4 house doors around the nexus beginning to glow softly, each with its distinctive color, red for Gryffindor, blue for Ravenclaw, yellow for Hufflepuff, green for Slytherin. The 5th door, Harry's, remained normal. An idea struck him so forcefully that he stopped mid-sentence, staring at the doors. Harry? Hermione prompted. Are you all right? I know what my gift will be, Harry said quietly. And I'm going to need help from all of you to prepare it. The Yule ceremonies began at sunset on the winter solstice, the final day of term before the holidays. Students and staff gathered in the Great Hall, which had been transformed for the occasion. The usual house tables were replaced with smaller, round tables spread throughout the room, each holding a miniature Yule log and unlit candles. The enchanted ceiling showed a clear winter sky, stars beginning to appear as daylight faded. At the center of the hall stood an enormous Yule log, positioned on a raised stone platform. Ancient runes carved into its surface glowed faintly in the dimming light. Harry waited nervously in a small antechamber off the great hall, dressed in formal black robes with his founder emblem embroidered in silver thread over his heart, a gift from Professor McGonagall, who had insisted he look the part for the ceremonies. Ready, Potter. McGonagall herself appeared in the doorway, wearing emerald green formal robes and a pointed hat adorned with holly. As ready as I'll ever be, Harry replied honestly. You'll do fine, she assured him, with uncharacteristic warmth. The castle itself will guide you. As if in confirmation, Harry felt Hogwarts magic stir around him, stronger than usual, resonating with the solstice energies. McGonagall led him to the base of the astronomy tower, where Dumbledore and the other heads of houses waited. Dumbledore wore magnificent purple robes spangled with silver stars that seemed to actually twinkle. Flitwick was resplendent in midnight blue, while Sprout wore warm amber robes with embroidered vines. Even Snape had traded his usual black for a more formal version, with subtle green accents. Ah, Harry, Dumbledore greeted him. The hour approaches. Are you prepared for your role? Harry nodded, though his stomach churned with nervousness. I think so, Professor. Excellent. Then let us begin. The procession was led by Dumbledore, who conjured a bright, silvery flame in an ornate brass lantern. The heads of houses followed in order of seniority, with Harry bringing up the rear. They ascended the astronomy tower in silence, climbing the spiral staircase to the very top. On the tower's summit, open to the night sky, they formed a circle around a small stone pedestal. The winter air was bitingly cold, but Harry barely noticed, warmed by the castle's magic flowing through him. On this longest night, Dumbledore intoned, his voice carrying clearly despite the wind, we gather to honor the cycle of darkness and light, of ending and beginning. As the year turns, so too does magic renew itself within these ancient walls. He placed the lantern on the pedestal, its silver flame dancing in the breeze. From the four corners, from the four houses, from the four founders, we draw strength, Dumbledore continued. And now, from the fifth founder, we draw unity. This was Harry's cue. He stepped forward, placing his hand above the lantern as he practiced. Immediately, he felt the castle's magic surge through him, channeling into the flame. Before his eyes, the silver fire transformed, splitting into 5 distinct flames, red, blue, yellow, green, and a bright white one at the center. Gasps of appreciation came from the professors, even Snape looking momentarily impressed. "The Founder's flame is kindled," Dumbledore declared. "Let it light our path." He lifted the lantern, and the procession began its descent. As they wound through the castle corridors, portraits and ghosts bowed as they passed. Suits of armor stood at attention, their helmets inclined respectfully. Harry felt the castle's response to the ceremony, a deep, resonant hum of magic that seemed to vibrate through the very stones. This wasn't just tradition, it was a genuine renewal of the bond between Hogwarts and those who guided it. When they reached the Great Hall, the gathered students and staff rose to their feet. The procession moved slowly down the central aisle toward the Yule log platform, the multicolored flames in the lantern casting dancing shadows across odd faces. Dumbledore mounted the platform first, followed by the heads of houses, who positioned themselves at the four corners of the massive log. Harry joined them, standing at what would have been the head of the log. For 1,000 years, Dumbledore addressed the hall, Hogwarts has stood as a beacon of magical learning. For 1,000 years, the legacy of the four founders has guided generations of witches and wizards. He turned to Harry. Tonight, we honor that legacy and embrace its evolution, as the fifth founder joins in the Yule blessing for the first time. Harry's heart pounded as all eyes turned to him. This was the moment he'd been dreading, and preparing for. Dumbledore handed him the lantern. "Light the Yule log, Founder Potter, and share your blessing with Hogwarts." Taking a deep breath, Harry knelt beside the enormous log. He opened the lantern and passed his hand through the flames, which, despite their appearance, felt only pleasantly warm against his skin. The 5-colored fire clung to his fingers like liquid light. With the Founder's flame, Harry said clearly, the words coming to him naturally now, "I kindle the light of renewal." He touched the log, and instantly, the 5-colored fire spread across its surface, racing along the carved runes until the entire log glowed with magical light. From there, smaller flames leapt from the main log to each of the miniature logs on the tables throughout the hall, creating a network of magical fire connecting everyone present. Now came the blessing. Harry stood, feeling the castle's magic gather around him, supporting him. In the darkness of winter, he began, his voice steady despite his nerves, "We find the heart of magic's mystery, that from darkness comes light, from endings come beginnings, from division comes the possibility of unity." The flames on the Yule log flickered in rhythm with his words, the colors shifting and blending. "I stand before you not as one house, but as all houses, and as something more. The courage of Gryffindor, the wisdom of Ravenclaw, the loyalty of Hufflepuff, the ambition of Slytherin, these are not separate virtues but facets of the same whole." Harry felt the castle responding to his words, its magic rising around him like an invisible tide. "My blessing for Hogwarts is this: may we learn to see beyond the boundaries that divide us. May we recognize strength in our differences and power in our unity. May the light we kindle tonight shine in the darkest places, revealing paths where none seemed possible before." The flames surged higher, their colors swirling together without losing their individual brilliance. This is the Founder's promise, that Hogwarts will always be a home for all who seek knowledge, a sanctuary for all who need shelter, and a place where magic's true potential can be discovered anew by each generation. As Harry finished speaking, the flames across the hall flared brightly, then settled into a steady, harmonious glow. A wave of magic swept through the room, not just Harry's, but something older and deeper, as if the castle itself was responding to his blessing. Dumbledore stepped forward. Now, as tradition dictates, the founder offers a gift to Hogwarts. Harry. This was the moment Harry had been preparing for. He raised his wand, and on this signal, members of the founder's circle from all 4 houses stood up from their tables around the hall. My gift, Harry declared, is not a thing but an act, a step toward the unity I spoke of in my blessing. He gestured, and his founder's circle allies each cast the spell they had practiced, a modified version of Lumos that Hermione had helped develop. Beams of light shot from their wands toward the ceiling, each in their house color. Harry raised his own wand, casting the master spell they had created together. As his white light joined the others, the beams began to weave together above the Yule log, forming an intricate, luminous pattern. Gasps and murmurs filled the hall as the pattern took shape, a new crest forming in light. It contained elements of all 4 house emblems, arranged around Harry's lightning and feather symbol, but transformed into something greater than the sum of its parts. The lion, eagle, badger, and serpent appeared to move within the light crest, not fighting but dancing together in perfect harmony. This is the crest of unity, Harry explained, his voice carrying clearly through the hushed hall. Created not by me alone, but by students from all 4 houses working together. My gift to Hogwarts is the promise that as 5th founder, I will work to strengthen the bonds between houses, not to erase our differences, but to help us see how those differences make us stronger together. The light crest pulsed once, brilliantly, then dissolved into thousands of tiny sparks that rained down across the hall, harmlessly showering everyone present with multicolored light that briefly illuminated their faces before fading. For a moment, complete silence reigned. Then applause erupted, hesitant at first, then building to thunderous proportions. Harry saw students from different houses looking at each other with new eyes, some even reaching across table boundaries to clasp hands or exchange smiles. Even the professors looked moved. Flitwick was openly wiping tears from his eyes, while Sprout beamed with undisguised pride. McGonagall's stern expression had softened into something approaching tenderness. Only Snape remained impassive, though Harry thought he detected a flicker of not approval, exactly, but perhaps reassessment in the potions master's dark eyes. Quirrell, Harry noticed, was nowhere to be seen. Well done, Harry, Dumbledore said quietly, placing a hand on his shoulder. A most fitting gift from the 5th founder. With the ceremonial aspects completed, the Yule feast began. Food appeared on the tables as usual, but with special seasonal dishes, roast goose, winter vegetables, spiced cider, and elaborate desserts shaped like Yule logs. Harry expected to be directed to the staff table, given his ceremonial role, but Dumbledore instead suggested he join his friends. The 5th founder belongs with the students tonight, I think. Your gift was about unity, after all. Relieved, Harry made his way to where Ron, Hermione, and other members of the founder's circle had pushed tables together to create one large, mixed-house gathering. As he approached, they broke into applause again. That was brilliant, Harry. Ron exclaimed. The light crest looked amazing. We all pulled it off together, Harry reminded him, sliding into an empty seat. Thanks for helping with the spell work, all of you. It was a perfect symbol, Susan Bones said earnestly. My aunt would approve, she's always saying the ministry could learn from more interdepartment cooperation. Even my father was impressed, Daphne Greengrass admitted quietly. And he's not easily impressed by anything. The conversation flowed easily as they ate, students from different houses sharing stories and traditions from their own family Yule celebrations. For the first time, Harry felt like his founder status was truly serving its purpose, not separating him from his peers but helping bridge the gaps between them. Later, as the feast wound down and students began returning to their dormitories for the last night before the holiday break, Harry found himself cornered by Professor Snape in a quiet alcove near the entrance hall. An impressive display, Potter, Snape said, his tone unreadable. Though perhaps a bit theatrical for my taste. Harry wasn't sure how to respond. Was Snape complimenting him or criticizing him? Thank you, I think, Professor. Do not mistake me, Snape continued, lowering his voice. Pretty lights and flowery speeches about unity may impress students and certain, sentimental members of the faculty, but they change nothing about the fundamental dangers this school currently faces. Harry tensed. What dangers, Professor? Snape's dark eyes bored into his. You know precisely what I mean, Potter. The Philosopher's Stone. The attempts to steal it. These are not matters to be addressed with light shows and platitudes about house cooperation. I never said they were, Harry replied, meeting his gaze steadily. The Yule ceremony and the real threat are separate issues. Are they? Snape raised an eyebrow. The timing seems convenient. A public spectacle celebrating the fifth founder, drawing all attention to your supposed importance, while elsewhere in the castle, darker plots unfold. Harry felt a chill. You think someone's going to try for the stone tonight? During the ceremony? I think, Potter, that you would be wise to remember that not all threats announce themselves with mountain trolls and dramatic entrances. The most dangerous predators are those who hide in plain sight, wearing friendly faces. Snape's expression hardened. Your connection to the castle, has it revealed nothing suspicious tonight? No warnings. No unexplained absences. Harry thought immediately of Quirrell, who hadn't been at the feast. Professor Quirrell wasn't there, he said cautiously. Indeed. Snape's lip curled. Our esteemed defense teacher claimed a sudden migraine prevented his attendance. Most unfortunate timing. You suspect him? But why would Quirrell want the stone? Why indeed, Snape murmured. Perhaps you should ask your castle, Potter. After all, you're the fifth founder, are you not? Surely Hogwarts would tell you if one of its professors harbored malicious intent. There was a challenge in Snape's voice that Harry couldn't ignore. I'll try, he said simply. Snape studied him for a moment longer, then nodded curtly. See that you do. And Potter, his voice dropped even lower, trust no one completely. Not even those who appear to support you unconditionally. With that cryptic warning, Snape swept away, leaving Harry troubled despite the evening's success. Later, alone in his quarters, Harry stood by his magical window, which tonight showed the snow-covered grounds glistening under a full moon. The Yule ceremony had gone better than he could have hoped, his blessing well received, his unity gift apparently meaningful to many. Yet Snape's warnings nagged at him, along with the conspicuous absence of Professor Quirrell. Following an impulse, Harry placed his hands against the stone wall of his room. Show me, he whispered to the castle. Show me what I need to see. The window's view shimmered and changed, revealing the third-floor corridor. The door leading to Fluffy stood slightly ajar, a discarded harp lying nearby. Whatever enchantment had been played to lull the three-headed dog had clearly worn off. Fluffy was awake and alert, growling at the open trapdoor between its massive paws. But the scene showed no one attempting to enter, only evidence that someone had already passed through. Too late, Harry murmured. Someone's already gone after the stone. The castle's magic pulsed anxiously around him, confirming his fears. The trial Rowena Ravenclaw had warned about had begun, even as they celebrated the Yule, even as Harry had spoken of unity and renewal. Darkness had been moving within Hogwarts. The window shifted again, showing a shadowy figure emerging from the third-floor corridor, limping slightly, clutching a bleeding arm. Even in the dim light, Harry recognized Professor Quirrell. But something was wrong with his posture, his movements, almost as if he were arguing with himself. As the image faded, Harry knew with certainty that the threat to the stone was far from over. Whatever had happened tonight had been merely a test, a probe of the defenses. The real attempt was yet to come. And when it did, Harry would need to be ready. Not just as a student, not just as the boy who lived, but as the fifth founder of Hogwarts, with all the responsibility that entailed. The castle trembled slightly, as if in agreement. The first trial was approaching its climax, and the very magic of Hogwarts hung in the balance. Chapter 3, Trial by Fire. Christmas at Hogwarts was nothing short of magical. Harry woke Christmas morning to find a small pile of presents at the foot of his bed, more gifts than he'd received in his entire life with the Dursleys. From Hagrid, a hand-carved wooden flute. From Mrs. Weasley, a hand-knitted emerald sweater and homemade fudge. From Ron, a box of chocolate frogs. From Hermione, a luxury eagle feather quill. Even some Founders Circle members had left small tokens, magical bookmarks, enchanted trinkets, and study aids. But the most intriguing gift came without a card. Harry unwrapped it to find a silvery, fluid-like fabric that seemed to flow like water through his hands. "No way," Ron breathed when Harry showed him later. "That's an invisibility cloak. They're really rare and valuable. Who sent it?" Harry shook his head, examining the small note that had fallen from the cloak's folds. "Your father left this in my possession before he died. It is time it was returned to you. Use it well." "Someone who knew my dad," Harry said quietly. "That's all it says." The cloak proved immediately useful. That very night, Harry used it to visit the restricted section of the library, searching for more information about the Philosopher's Stone and Nicholas Flamel. Though that particular expedition ended in near disaster when he accidentally woke up the entire library with a screaming book, it led to an even more significant discovery: the Mirror of Erised, now relocated from the hidden chamber where Dumbledore had first shown it to Harry. This time, Harry brought Ron to see it. "It shows your deepest desire," Harry explained as they stood before the mirror. "For me, it shows the Founders acknowledging me as their equal." "Wicked," Ron murmured, stepping in front of the glass. "I see myself as head boy. And Quidditch captain. I'm holding the Quidditch cup and the house cup." Harry wasn't surprised. Ron had spent his life overshadowed by his successful older brothers. Of course he'd desire recognition of his own. They returned the following night, drawn by the mirror's magnetic pull, but found Dumbledore waiting for them. "Back again, boys," the headmaster said gently. "I see you, like many before you, have discovered the delights of the Mirror of Erised." "Sorry, Professor," Harry said, feeling guilty. "We were just curious." "That is not a crime, Harry. But I must warn you both, the mirror will be moved to a new home tomorrow, and I ask you not to go looking for it again." "What's going to happen to it?" Ron asked. Dumbledore's eyes twinkled. "It will serve a different purpose soon, one I suspect Harry has already guessed." Harry nodded slowly. "It's the final protection for the stone, isn't it?" "Indeed. And a clever one, if I do say so myself." Dumbledore studied Harry thoughtfully. "The castle has shown you much, hasn't it?" "Yes, sir. Including Quirrell trying to get past Fluffy the night of the Yule ceremony." Dumbledore's expression grew serious. "I see. And what do you intend to do with this knowledge, Harry?" "Protect the stone," Harry replied without hesitation. "The castle is worried, Professor. It keeps showing me the third-floor corridor, like it's trying to warn me." "The castle's concern is understandable," Dumbledore said. "But remember, Harry, Hogwarts has many layers of protection, not least the combined power of its staff. Your role as fifth founder does not require you to face every threat alone." "I know, sir. But I still feel responsible." Dumbledore sighed. "A heavy burden for young shoulders. Perhaps that is why the Sorting Hat chose you, your capacity to care deeply for Hogwarts and its people." He smiled slightly. "Promise me you'll be cautious, at least. The stone's protections are considerable, but so are the dangers facing those who might attempt to breach them." Harry promised, but as January arrived and classes resumed, his sense of foreboding only grew. The castle's magic felt increasingly agitated, especially when Quirrell was nearby. Harry noticed the defense professor looking paler and thinner than ever, with a hunted expression that made Harry's scar twinge uncomfortably whenever their eyes met. "You're obsessed," Hermione told him after Harry spent an entire Founders Circle meeting discussing his suspicions about Quirrell. "Professor Dumbledore wouldn't have hired him if he was dangerous." Dumbledore hired him to teach defense, not to be trustworthy, Harry countered. And the castle doesn't trust him, it practically recoils when he's around. Ron, at least, took Harry's concerns seriously. My dad always says to trust magical instincts. If Hogwarts is warning you about Quirrell, there must be something off about him. Harry appreciated Ron's support, but without concrete evidence, there was little they could do besides watch and wait. Meanwhile, Harry continued developing his connection to the castle, practicing the techniques from Riddle's journal daily. His awareness of Hogwarts magic grew sharper, more nuanced. He could distinguish between different types of enchantments, sense when staircases were about to move, and even locate specific people within the castle if he concentrated hard enough. This last ability proved particularly useful when, in late January, Harry received an unexpected summons to Dumbledore's office. The Ministry of Magic has sent representatives to formally evaluate your status as fifth founder, McGonagall informed him crisply. They arrived this morning without warning, most irregular, but Minister Fudge insists it's a matter of urgent importance. Harry's heart sank. What kind of evaluation? They haven't specified, but I suggest you prepare yourself for intensive questioning at minimum. McGonagall's expression softened slightly. For what it's worth, Potter, I believe your performance at the Yule ceremony silenced many doubters. The minister himself was apparently quite impressed by reports of your blessing and gift. That was something, at least. Harry squared his shoulders and followed McGonagall to Dumbledore's office, reaching out with his awareness to sense who waited within. He detected Dumbledore's familiar magical signature, warm and powerful like summer sunlight. Beside it was the minister's more muted presence, and two others Harry didn't recognize, one sharp and precise, the other strangely muffled, as if deliberately concealing its true nature. Ah, Harry. Fudge greeted him with forced joviality when they entered. Splendid to see you again. Splendid. Minister, Harry nodded politely, then turned to the strangers, a tall, severe-looking witch with a monocle, and a nondescript wizard in grey robes who seemed to fade into the background even as Harry looked directly at him. Allow me to introduce Madame Amelia Bones, head of the Department of Magical Law Enforcement, Dumbledore said, and Mr. Broderick Bode, unspeakable from the Department of Mysteries. Harry recognized the name Bones immediately. You're Susan's aunt, he said to the monocled witch. Amelia Bones inclined her head. Indeed. My niece has written extensively about your founder's circle, Mr. Potter. Most impressive initiative. Thank you, ma'am. The man called Bode said nothing, merely studying Harry with unervingly focused eyes. Yes, well, Fudge cleared his throat, we're here on official ministry business. The question of Mr. Potter's supposed founder status has created quite the stir, you understand. The Board of Governors is divided, the educational authorities are flummoxed, and frankly, the legal implications are unprecedented. What legal implications? Harry asked warily. Madame Bones answered. Hogwarts' original charter grants significant autonomy to its founders, autonomy that has been managed by the Board of Governors since the original four passed away. If you are truly recognized as a fifth founder, Mr. Potter, it raises questions about governance, jurisdiction, and authority that have never been addressed before. I'm not trying to take over the school, Harry protested. I'm just trying to help unite the houses. A commendable goal, Bones acknowledged, but intentions aside, your status must be officially determined. And how exactly do you propose to do that? Dumbledore inquired mildly. Bode spoke for the first time, his voice unexpectedly deep for his slight frame. We have developed a series of tests to evaluate the authenticity of Mr. Potter's connection to the castle. What kind of tests? Harry asked, suddenly nervous. Nothing harmful, Madame Bones assured him. Simply demonstrations of the founder abilities you reportedly possess. Your connection to the castle, your understanding of its magic, your capacity to influence its enchantments. And what if I pass these tests? Or fail them? Fudge shifted uncomfortably. If you pass, the Ministry will formally recognize your position as fifth founder of Hogwarts, with all attendant rights and responsibilities, to be determined in consultation with the Board of Governors, of course. And if I fail? Then you will return to normal student status, Madam Bones said. The Founder's Nexus will be sealed, and the castle's recent accommodations for you will be reversed. Harry felt a flash of panic at the thought of losing his connection to Hogwarts. The castle's magic surged in response, a protective wave that even the Ministry officials seemed to notice, Bode's eyebrows rising fractionally. Interesting, the unspeakable murmured. The castle responds to his emotions. Indeed, Dumbledore agreed. Which rather suggests the outcome of your tests before they've even begun, wouldn't you say? Fudge cleared his throat again. Yes, well, procedure must be followed. Shall we begin? The tests proved both more and less challenging than Harry had anticipated. Some were straightforward demonstrations of abilities he'd grown comfortable with, sensing hidden passages, predicting staircase movements, identifying the magical signatures of different castle areas. Others were more complex. Bode asked Harry to locate specific artifacts hidden throughout the castle using only his founder connection. Madam Bones had him identify which enchantments in a particular corridor had been altered from their original forms. Fudge, clearly out of his depth but unwilling to admit it, mostly watched and made vague noises of either approval or skepticism depending on who else was reacting. The final test brought them to the Great Hall, empty between meals. Bode produced a small, ancient-looking device like a complex astrolabe. This artifact, he explained, was created by Rowena Ravenclaw herself to measure the Founder's attunement to the castle's core magic. If you are truly the fifth Founder, it will respond to your magical signature. Harry took the delicate instrument nervously. The moment his fingers touched the cool metal, it sprang to life, whirring, spinning, its nested rings realigning themselves into a complex new configuration. Symbols illuminated along its edges, and a soft blue light emanated from its center. Bode's normally impassive face registered shock. Extraordinary, he breathed. The response is even stronger than our historical records indicate for the original founders. Is that good? Harry asked. It's unprecedented, Bode replied. The castle's magic has bonded with yours more completely than we thought possible. It's almost as if. As if what? Fudge demanded. Bode hesitated. As if Hogwarts has been waiting for him specifically. A heavy silence fell. Harry felt the weight of everyone's gaze, but more importantly, he felt the castle's magic humming through him, stronger than ever before, not just accepting his presence but celebrating it. Well, Fudge said finally, I suppose that settles it. Indeed, Madam Bones agreed. The evidence is irrefutable. She turned to Harry. Mr. Potter, the Ministry of Magic formally recognizes you as the fifth founder of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. The exact parameters of this position will require further discussion, but your connection to the castle is now officially acknowledged. Relief flooded through Harry. Thank you, Madam Bones. Don't thank me yet, she replied with the ghost of a smile. With great honor comes great scrutiny, Mr. Potter. The Ministry will be watching your development closely. As will certain other interested parties, Bode added cryptically. After the Ministry officials departed, Harry remained in Dumbledore's office, processing the implications of his new, official status. That went better than expected, he admitted. Indeed, Dumbledore agreed. Though I suspect having Amelia Bones lead the evaluation worked in your favor. She is known for her fairness and lack of political maneuvering. Will this change anything? Practically, I mean. Dumbledore considered. In the short term, it provides legal protection for your position. The Board of Governors cannot simply dismiss your status now that the Ministry has formally recognized it. His eyes twinkled. In the longer term? That, Harry, will depend largely on what you choose to do with your newfound legitimacy. News of Harry's official recognition spread quickly through the school. The Founders' Circle swelled with new members, including several older students who had previously dismissed it as a first-year's fantasy club. Even some of the more traditional Slytherins began attending meetings, though Malfoy and his immediate cronies remained conspicuously absent. Politics, Blaise explained to Harry during a circle meeting in early February. Your stock is rising, Potter. The smart ones want to be associated with you now. And Malfoy? Blaise smirked. Still following his father's lead, and Lucius Malfoy doesn't adapt quickly to changing circumstances. He'll come around eventually, or risk isolation. Harry wasn't sure he wanted Malfoy to come around, but he appreciated the broader acceptance from Slytherin House. The Founders' Circle had evolved into something truly representing all four houses, just as he'd hoped. You've created something special here, Cedric Diggory told him one evening as they practiced shield charms. I can't remember a time when houses mixed this freely outside of classes. That's the whole point of being the fifth founder, I think, Harry replied. To remind everyone that Hogwarts is more than just four separate houses. February melted into March, bringing slightly warmer weather but increasingly frantic exam preparation for all years. The Founders' Circle shifted focus accordingly, with 5th and 7th years running study groups for their respective OWL and NEWT subjects, while younger students concentrated on mastering basic practical skills. Through it all, Harry maintained his vigilance regarding the Philosopher's Stone. Quirrell looked worse with each passing week, thinner, paler, more frightened. Sometimes Harry caught the defense professor staring at him with an odd intensity that made his scar burn. Other times, he'd glimpse Quirrell and Snape in heated conversations that abruptly ended whenever a student approached. Something's going to happen soon, Harry told Ron and Hermione as they studied by the lake one mild Saturday in late March. Quirrell's getting desperate. If he's really after the stone, Hermione reminded him. We still don't have proof. The castle knows, Harry insisted. Every time he's near the third-floor corridor, I can feel its magic tensing up, like it's preparing for an attack. Has Dumbledore said anything? Ron asked. Harry shook his head. He keeps telling me the stone is well protected and I shouldn't worry. But I think he's worried too. He's been away from the castle more often lately. Maybe he's tracking down information about who's really trying to steal the stone, Hermione suggested. Or maybe, Ron said darkly, someone's waiting for him to leave before making their move. That possibility had occurred to Harry as well, and it troubled him deeply. Without Dumbledore's powerful presence, Hogwarts seemed more vulnerable somehow, despite all its magical protections. As if validating his concerns, that evening Harry found a folded note on his desk when he returned to his quarters. Like the previous messages from the Founders, it was written in that elegant, ancient script, but this time signed by Godric Gryffindor. To the fifth founder, when the Guardian departs, the serpent will strike. Steel yourself for the trial that approaches. Remember that true courage lies not in facing danger alone, but in knowing when to call upon allies. The castle will guide you, but only you can lead the defense. Trust in the magic that has chosen you. Godric Gryffindor. Harry stared at the note, a chill running down his spine despite the warm fire crackling in his hearth. The Guardian departs clearly referred to Dumbledore leaving Hogwarts. But who was the serpent? Quirrell didn't seem serpentine, that description fit Snape far better. Unless. A terrible suspicion formed in Harry's mind, one he'd been subconsciously avoiding. What if the person trying to steal the stone wasn't working alone? What if they were working for someone else, someone who had very good reason to want the elixir of life? Voldemort, Harry whispered, and the castle's magic pulsed in confirmation, a warning surge that made the flames in his fireplace momentarily burn emerald green. He needed to tell someone, Dumbledore, ideally, but the headmaster was already gone, called away to the ministry on urgent business according to Professor McGonagall. Snape? Impossible to know if he was trustworthy. McGonagall herself? She'd already dismissed Harry's vague concerns once before. No, Harry realized with growing certainty. This was why he had been recognized as the fifth founder. This was his trial, as the founder's letters had warned. Hogwarts itself was under threat, and it had chosen him to lead its defense. But Gryffindor's advice was clear: he shouldn't face this danger alone. Determined, Harry reached out with his founder magic, sending a pulse through the castle that he discovered could alert specific people to seek him out. Within 20 minutes, the core members of the Founders' Circle had assembled in the Nexus: Ron and Hermione, naturally, but also Neville, the Weasley twins, Daphne Greengrass, Blaise Zabini, Susan Bones, Hannah Abbott, Padma Patil, and Terry Boot. "What's the emergency?" Fred, or possibly George, asked as they arrived. "I think someone's going to try to steal the Philosopher's Stone tonight," Harry said without preamble. "Dumbledore's been called away, and I have reason to believe it's not a coincidence." Blank stares met this announcement from most of the group. "The what stone?" Blaise asked skeptically. "It's a legendary magical artifact," Hermione explained quickly. "Created by Nicholas Flamel. It produces the elixir of life and can turn metal into gold. And it's hidden in Hogwarts." Susan Bones looked alarmed. "Does my aunt know about this?" "Probably not," Harry admitted. "It's been kept very quiet." "Wait," Padma interrupted. "You're saying this incredibly valuable, powerful object is hidden in the school, and someone's trying to steal it tonight specifically because Dumbledore is away?" "Yes," Harry confirmed. "And I think that someone is Professor Quirrell." This caused an even greater stir. "Quirrell? George, or possibly Fred," scoffed. "The bloke who jumps at his own shadow?" "It's an act," Harry insisted. "Or at least partly an act. The castle's been warning me about him for months. And I think—" He hesitated, then committed to the full truth. "I think he might be working for Voldemort." Several people flinched at the name. Neville went pale as parchment. "That's a serious accusation," Daphne said carefully. "I know. But think about it, who would want the elixir of life more than someone who's barely clinging to existence? Someone who lost their body 10 years ago but didn't truly die." A heavy silence fell as the implications sank in. "Okay," Ron said finally, "assuming you're right, what's your plan?" "Tell McGonagall." Harry shook his head. "She wouldn't believe us without proof. By the time we convinced her, it might be too late. No, I think we need to protect the stone ourselves." "How?" Hermione demanded. "We're students, Harry, not Aurors." "We're more than that," Harry countered. "We're the Founders' Circle. We represent all 4 houses, all 4 types of magic that the Founders valued. Together, we have strengths that even Quirrell, or Voldemort, might not expect." He turned to his makeshift council of war. "I'm not asking everyone to come. It'll be dangerous. But I need a team, someone from each house who's willing to help me get to the stone before Quirrell does." To Harry's immense gratitude, not a single person left. Instead, they began strategizing, who had the best skills for potentially facing the protections Harry had glimpsed through his castle connection. "We know there's a 3-headed dog guarding the entrance," Harry explained. "Then Devil's Snare, flying keys, a giant chess set, another troll, a logic puzzle with potions, and finally the Mirror of Erised. Diverse challenges requiring diverse talents," Terry Boot observed. "Clever." After intense discussion, they settled on a core team: Harry, Ron, and Hermione, naturally, plus Neville for his herbology expertise, the twins for their unparalleled knowledge of the castle's secret passages and their advanced magical skills, Daphne for her cool head and talent with obscure spells, and Blaise, who admitted to having certain family knowledge about navigating magical traps. "The rest of you should spread out through the castle," Harry instructed the others. "Susan, can you and Hannah keep an eye on McGonagall's office? If things go badly, we might need to get her help quickly." "Absolutely," Susan agreed. "Padma and Terry, monitor the entrance hall. If Dumbledore returns, get him to the 3rd-floor corridor immediately." The impromptu defense force dispersed to their positions. Using communication coins the twins had quickly enchanted to stay in contact. Harry led his core team toward the forbidden corridor, his heart pounding but his resolve firm. As they approached the corridor, Harry felt the castle's magic surge around him, not warning now but encouraging, almost eager. Hogwarts had been waiting for this moment as much as he had. "It's locked," Ron reported, trying the door to Fluffy's chamber. "Not for long," Fred grinned, pulling out his wand. "Wait," Harry said, placing his palm against the door. He reached out with his founder magic, connecting with the castle's enchantments. "Hogwarts, let us pass to protect what lies within." The lock clicked open without a spell. "Wicked," George whispered. "Founder privileges." Inside, the enormous three-headed dog was wide awake, all 6 eyes fixed on them as they entered. It rose to its feet, growling menacingly. "Music," Hermione hissed. "We need music to put it to sleep." Before anyone could produce an instrument, Harry raised his hand. "Hogwarts," he said softly, "help us pass your guardian." The castle responded immediately. A gentle melody began to play from the very walls, a lullaby that seemed ancient and familiar though Harry had never heard it before. Slowly, Fluffy's massive heads began to droop, its growls turning to snuffling snores. "The Founder's Lullaby," Daphne whispered in awe. "It's mentioned in ancient texts, a melody the Founders used to calm the castle's protections. I didn't think it was real." "It's real enough," Harry replied, moving toward the trapdoor now visible between Fluffy's enormous paws. "And we need to hurry. The music won't last forever." Fred and George pulled open the heavy wooden door, revealing a dark pit below. "I'll go first," Harry decided. "If it's safe, I'll call up to you." "And if it's not safe?" Hermione asked anxiously. "Then get McGonagall immediately," Harry replied grimly. "But I don't think the castle would let me fall into a trap." Taking a deep breath, he jumped into the darkness. He landed with a soft thump on something that felt like a plant, specifically, Devil's Snare, which immediately began wrapping tendrils around his limbs. "It's Devil's Snare down here," he called up. "Neville, we'll need you." One by one, his team jumped down, each landing in the clutches of the plant. Neville, far from being frightened, looked perfectly in his element. "Everyone relax," he commanded with unexpected authority. "Devil's Snare hates fire and light." Daphne, already half constricted, managed to raise her wand. Incendio. Blue flames erupted around them, causing the plant to shrink away, releasing its grip. They dropped through to a stone chamber below. "Brilliant, Neville!" Ron exclaimed. "You too, Greengrass." "This way," Harry pointed, following the pull of the castle's guidance. "The flying keys are next." The key chamber was just as Harry had glimpsed through his castle connection, a high-ceilinged room filled with glittering winged keys, with broomsticks hovering nearby. "We need to catch the right key to unlock that door," Harry explained, pointing to the heavy wooden door on the far side. "What does it look like?" George asked, already mounting a broom. Harry closed his eyes, letting the castle show him. "Old-fashioned. Silver. Large. Probably with damaged wings since Quirrell's already been through here." The twins took to the air with practiced ease, joined by Blaze who proved surprisingly adept on a broomstick. Together, they cornered and captured the key Harry had described. "Quidditch skills for the win," Fred grinned, passing the struggling key to Harry. The door unlocked with a satisfying click, leading them into a massive chamber dominated by an enormous chessboard with pieces taller than they were. "Wizard's chess," Ron breathed, his eyes gleaming with strategic excitement. "We have to play our way across." "This is your moment, Weasley," Blaze said, unexpectedly respectful. "Everyone knows you're unbeatable at chess." Ron's ears turned pink, but he straightened, surveying the board with a commander's eye. "Right. We'll need to take the place of some pieces." He assigned positions to each of them, Harry as a bishop, Hermione as a castle, the twins as knights, Neville as a pawn, with himself taking the crucial role of king to better direct the game. Daphne and Blaise replaced the other bishop and the queen. What followed was a brutal, high-stakes chess match. Ron played brilliantly, anticipating the opposing side's moves and strategically sacrificing pieces when necessary. The violence of Wizards' chess was magnified at this scale. When pieces were taken, they were smashed to the ground with bone-jarring force. "I need to sacrifice myself," Ron announced grimly after 20 tense minutes. "No," Hermione protested. "It's the only way," Ron insisted. "Once I'm taken, Harry can checkmate the king in 3 moves. I've calculated it all." "There must be another way," Harry said, unwilling to risk his friend. "There isn't," Ron replied with absolute certainty. "This is what I'm good at, Harry. Let me do this." Before anyone could stop him, Ron moved into position. The opposing queen turned, advancing on him with mechanical precision. As she raised her stone arm to strike, Harry desperately reached out with his founder magic. "Protect him," he commanded the castle. "He fights for Hogwarts." A shimmering shield materialized around Ron just as the queen's blow landed. Instead of being smashed to the ground, Ron was merely knocked backward, dazed but intact. "Bloody hell," Fred whispered. "That should have pulverized him." "Founder magic," Daphne murmured. "The castle recognized your authority, Potter." Harry moved as Ron had instructed, checkmating the White King, who threw down his crown in surrender. The path to the next chamber cleared. "You 5 go ahead," George said, helping Ron to his feet. "We'll get Ron to the hospital wing, then circle back to help if we can." Harry nodded gratefully. "Be careful. And thank you, all of you." "Just stop Quirrell," Ron said groggily. "And don't die, yeah." The remaining 4, Harry, Hermione, Neville, and Daphne, pressed onward, entering a chamber that reeked of troll. Fortunately, the creature was already unconscious, a bloody lump on its head. "Quirrell's work," Harry said grimly. "He's definitely ahead of us." "Not by much," Daphne observed, pointing to a still swinging door on the far side. The next chamber contained nothing but a table with 7 differently shaped bottles standing in a line, and flames blocking both the entrance and exit. As they stepped inside, purple flames sprang up behind them, while black flames blocked the way forward. A roll of parchment lay beside the bottles, containing a logic puzzle in the form of a poem. Hermione read it quickly, her brilliant mind already working through the riddle. "This is brilliant," she said admiringly. "It's not magic, it's logic, a puzzle most wizards wouldn't be able to solve without magic." "Can you solve it?" Harry asked urgently. "Give me a minute." While Hermione deciphered the puzzle, Harry reached out to the castle again, trying to sense how close Quirrell might be to the stone. What he felt sent a chill down his spine: 2 magical signatures in the final chamber, one familiar as Quirrell's, the other ancient, malevolent, and somehow fractured. "He's not alone," Harry whispered. "There's someone, or something, with him." Daphne's face paled. "You don't really think? He who must not be named?" "I do," Harry said grimly. "And they're already at the mirror." "Got it," Hermione announced triumphantly. "The smallest bottle will get us through the black flames, toward the stone." Harry examined the tiny bottle. "There's only enough for 1 person." A heavy silence fell as they all realized what this meant. "It should be you, Harry," Hermione said finally. "You're the 5th founder. The castle chose you for this." "But you shouldn't go alone," Neville protested, showing unexpected backbone. "It's too dangerous." Harry thought quickly. "Hermione, which potion takes you back through the purple flames?" She pointed to a round bottle at the right end of the line. "Okay. You 3 take that one, get back to Ron and the twins, and send for Dumbledore. I'll go forward alone." "Potter," Daphne said quietly, "if it really is the Dark Lord in there." "I know," Harry replied. But I have to try. The castle will help me, I can feel it. He held out his hand, and to his surprise, Daphne clasped it firmly. Slytherin House doesn't forget its debts, she said. You've treated us fairly when others wouldn't. Whatever happens in there, remember that not all ambition leads to darkness. Harry nodded, touched by her unexpected support. Be careful, Hermione urged, hugging him fiercely. We'll get help as fast as we can. Neville simply gripped Harry's shoulder, his expression conveying what words couldn't. Harry downed the contents of the smallest bottle in one gulp, feeling an icy sensation spread through his body. Taking a deep breath, he stepped through the black flames and into the final chamber. The room was circular, with the mirror of Erised standing in the center. Before it stood Professor Quirrell, his back to Harry, his turban slightly askew. I wondered if I'd be seeing you, Potter, Quirrell said without turning around. His voice was different, no stutter, no tremor, just cold confidence. I knew it was you, Harry replied, gripping his wand tightly. Of course you did, Quirrell said, finally turning to face him. Your precious castle warned you, didn't it? Hogwarts has always had a talent for recognizing threats. His lips curled in a sneer. The fifth founder. What a charming little myth Dumbledore has encouraged. It's not a myth, Harry said firmly. The castle chose me. Oh, I don't doubt that something chose you, Potter. The question is, what? Quirrell's eyes gleamed with malicious amusement. Do you really think you're special? That some ancient magic recognized your worth? You're nothing but a tool, Dumbledore's tool, the castle's tool, fate's tool. Better that than being Voldemort's puppet, Harry countered. Quirrell's face contorted with rage. You dare speak his name? You, who destroyed him? Who reduced the greatest wizard who ever lived to a shadow of himself? If he's so great, where is he? Hiding? Letting you do his dirty work? He is with me always, Quirrell said, his voice dropping to a reverent whisper. Sharing my body, my mind, guiding me toward greatness. And once I obtain the stone for him, he will restore himself to power, and reward me beyond imagining. A cold, high voice suddenly filled the chamber, not coming from Quirrell's mouth, but seeming to emanate from him nonetheless. Let me speak to him, face to face. Master, you are not strong enough. I have strength enough, for this. To Harry's horror, Quirrell began unwrapping his turban. As the purple cloth fell away, he turned slowly on the spot, revealing what should have been the back of his head. But there was no back of Quirrell's head. Instead, a face projected from the skull, chalk-white with glaring red eyes and slits for nostrils, like a snake. Harry Potter. The face whispered. See what I have become. Mere shadow and vapor, forced to share another's body. But once I have the elixir of life, I can create a body of my own. Now, give me the stone in your pocket. Harry stepped back, shocked. I don't have, but even as he denied it, he felt a sudden weight in his pocket that hadn't been there before. Somehow, impossibly, the philosopher's stone had materialized on his person. Don't lie to me. Voldemort hissed. I can see your thoughts, the mirror gave it to you, how fitting that Dumbledore's precious fifth founder should deliver the means of my resurrection. I'll never give it to you, Harry declared, backing away. Seize him. Voldemort shrieked. Quirrell lunged forward, his hands closing around Harry's throat. Immediately, searing pain shot through Harry's scar. But something else happened too. Quirrell let go with a howl of agony, his fingertips blistering before Harry's eyes. Master! I cannot touch him, it burns me. Then kill him, fool. Use your wand. Quirrell raised his wand, but before he could cast a spell, Harry felt the castle's magic surge through him with unprecedented force. The stone floor beneath Quirrell cracked and shifted, throwing him off balance. The walls themselves seemed to constrict, pressing inward as if the chamber were taking a breath. What is this? Voldemort hissed in alarm. Hogwarts protects its own, Harry replied, understanding flowing through him with the castle's magic. Especially its founders. Guided by instinct and the castle's power, Harry pressed his hands against the nearest wall. Show them what it means to threaten Hogwarts, he commanded. The chamber responded spectacularly. The stone floor rippled like water, waves of magic pulsing outward from where Harry stood. The ceiling began to glow with the same five-colored light that had illuminated the Yule log, red, blue, yellow, green, and white intertwining in complex patterns. From the walls emerged four shimmering figures, ghostly but more substantial than any Hogwarts ghost Harry had seen before. He recognized them instantly from the mirror of Erised, the four founders themselves, conjured by the castle's most ancient magic. Impossible! Quirrell gasped. The traitor returns, Salazar Slytherin's spectral form pronounced, his voice echoing with otherworldly power. Seeking to corrupt my ambition into mere tyranny. You abandoned the path of wisdom, Rowena Ravenclaw's apparition continued, choosing power without knowledge, might without right. You rejected the loyalty that binds true fellowship, Helga Hufflepuff added, her ghostly form radiating disapproval, sacrificing others for your own gain. And you forsook courage for mere cruelty, Godric Gryffindor finished, hiding behind servants rather than facing your fate with dignity. Silence. Voldemort shrieked. You are nothing but echoes, magical residue. You have no power here. We have the power you never understood, the four spectral founders replied in unison. The power of Hogwarts itself. As one, they turned to Harry, their ghostly hands extending toward him. Fifth founder, call upon our united magic. The castle recognizes your need. Instinctively, Harry reached out, connecting with the apparitions. As his hands touched their insubstantial forms, power unlike anything he'd ever felt surged through him, the combined magical essence of Hogwarts and its founders, channeled through his body. Quirrell, and Voldemort, sensed the danger too late. As Harry directed the founders' magic toward them, a blinding light erupted from his hands. Quirrell screamed as the power engulfed him, his body crumbling like ash from the outside in, Voldemort's face the last to disintegrate. A terrible shriek filled the chamber as a dark, smoky essence tore itself free from Quirrell's dissolving form. The malevolent cloud that was Voldemort's spirit hovered for a moment, its red eyes fixed hatefully on Harry. This is not the end, Potter, it hissed, its voice fading. I will return, and neither you nor your precious castle can protect you forever. The spirit fled, passing through the solid wall as if it were mist. Harry collapsed to his knees, the stone still clutched in his hand, the four founders' apparitions fading around him. The last thing he heard before consciousness slipped away was Gryffindor's approving voice, "Well done, fifth founder. You have passed the first trial." Harry awoke to find himself in the hospital wing, sunlight streaming through tall windows. His first bleary thought was concern for his friends, had they made it out safely? His second was relief to find the Philosopher's Stone no longer in his possession, hopefully returned to Dumbledore's protection. "Ah, you're awake." The headmaster himself appeared beside Harry's bed, eyes twinkling behind half-moon spectacles. "How are you feeling, my boy?" "Like I fought a mountain troll," Harry groaned, sitting up gingerly. "How long have I been here?" 3 days, Dumbledore replied. "Your friends have been most concerned, though Madame Pomfrey has assured them hourly that you are recovering nicely." Memories of the confrontation in the mirror chamber flooded back. "Sir, Quirrell, Voldemort, both gone, for now," Dumbledore said gently. "Professor Quirrell, unfortunately, did not survive. As for Voldemort, he has fled, reduced once again to a parasitic existence. A temporary respite, I fear, but valuable nonetheless." "And the stone?" "Destroyed, with Nicholas Flamel's blessing." Dumbledore's expression grew serious. "He and his wife have enough elixir to set their affairs in order, then they will embrace the next great adventure." Harry nodded slowly, then asked the question foremost in his mind. "The founders, sir. I saw them. They helped me. Was that real?" Ah. Dumbledore's eyes twinkled even more brightly. I wondered when we would reach this topic. Yes, Harry, it was quite real, though not in the sense of the founders themselves returning from beyond the veil. Rather, you accessed what might be called their magical echoes, preserved within Hogwarts itself. Like magical portraits? Far more sophisticated, but similar in concept, yes. The founders imbued the castle with not just their magic but aspects of their personalities, their values, their very essence. What you summoned were these magical imprints, dormant for centuries until the fifth founder called upon them in Hogwarts' hour of need. Harry absorbed this, amazed by the founders' foresight. They said I passed the first trial. What did they mean? I believe, Dumbledore said carefully, that the founders anticipated Hogwarts would face multiple threats throughout its existence. The trial you faced, Voldemort's attempt to return to power within these walls, may be only the first of several challenges that will require the fifth founder's intervention. This was a sobering thought. So there will be others? I'm afraid it seems likely. But take heart, Harry, you will not face them unprepared, nor will you face them alone. Dumbledore smiled. Your friends demonstrated remarkable loyalty and courage. I don't think Hogwarts has seen such cooperation between houses in many decades. The door to the hospital wing burst open at that moment, admitting Ron, Hermione, and Neville, who had apparently been keeping vigil outside. Harry. Hermione rushed to his bedside. You're awake. Blimey, mate, Ron grinned, looking relieved. About time. You've missed all the excitement. What excitement? Harry asked. The castle's been changing, Neville explained excitedly. Ever since you defeated you-know-who down there. New rooms appearing, old passages reopening, the moving staircases actually making sense for once. It's like Hogwarts is, rearranging itself, Hermione added. Professor Binns says it hasn't happened since the founder's time. Dumbledore nodded. Indeed. The castle is responding to your triumph, Harry. As the fifth founder, fully recognized by both the Ministry and Hogwarts itself, your connection has triggered a magical renewal of sorts. The Slytherins are freaking out, Ron chuckled. Their common room got relocated closer to the Great Hall, and there are new connecting corridors between all the house areas. Even Malfoy doesn't know what to make of it. Which reminds me, Dumbledore said, eyes twinkling mischievously. There's been a rather significant addition you should see once Madame Pomfrey releases you. I believe the castle has prepared a surprise. That surprise turned out to be spectacular. When Harry was finally discharged from the hospital wing the following day, his friends led him to the entrance hall, where a crowd of students had gathered, murmuring excitedly. The entrance hall itself had changed dramatically. Where before there had been 4 great hourglasses displaying house points, there now stood 5, the newest bearing Harry's lightning and feather emblem. More striking still was the massive new stone archway spanning the hall's center, its keystone carved with the crest of unity Harry had created for the Yule ceremony. The fifth house, Hermione whispered, pointing to a new corridor branching off the hall. That's what everyone's calling it. It's not really a house, Harry protested. I'm still trying to bring the houses together, not create divisions. It's not replacing the houses, Daphne Greengrass explained, appearing beside them. It's connecting them. Look. She guided Harry through the new archway and into a corridor he'd never seen before. It led to an enormous circular chamber, larger even than the Great Hall, with 5 doors arranged around its perimeter, each bearing a house crest. Between these doors stood tall windows offering breathtaking views of the grounds, and the domed ceiling above was enchanted to show not just the sky but a map of Hogwarts itself, its corridors and rooms laid out in glowing lines of magic. The heart of Hogwarts, Daphne said simply. That's what Slytherins are calling it. Apparently it existed in the founder's time but was sealed when they began to quarrel. And now it's reopened, Hermione breathed, turning in a slow circle to take it all in. Students from all houses were exploring the chamber in wonder. Some gathered around circular tables scattered throughout the space, while others examined the towering bookshelves that lined the walls between the doors. "The books," Terry Boot exclaimed, rushing over to them. "They're from all 4 house libraries, copies, not the originals. Knowledge shared between houses for the first time in centuries." "And look," Susan Bones pointed to a raised platform at the chamber's center. "That's the crest of unity again, built right into the floor." Harry approached the platform cautiously. As his foot touched the first step, the crest began to glow with that now familiar 5-colored light. The entire chamber fell silent, all eyes turning to him. Hello," Harry said awkwardly, unprepared for the moment. "I guess the castle wanted us to have this space. For, you know, unity and stuff." Hermione rolled her eyes at his eloquence, but there were chuckles of appreciation from the gathered students. "What I mean," Harry continued, finding his footing, "is that this is what the Founders' Circle has been about all along, bringing houses together, sharing our strengths. The castle has just made it official, I guess." "So what happens now, Potter?" called a voice from the crowd, Draco Malfoy, his usual sneer softened by genuine curiosity. "Does everyone just abandon their houses and join your new one?" Harry shook his head firmly. "No. The houses still matter. They each represent important values, important traditions. This isn't about replacing them, it's about connecting them." He gestured around the circular chamber. 5 doors, 5 paths, but 1 heart. That's what Hogwarts was meant to be. A murmur of approval spread through the students. Even Malfoy seemed to be considering his words rather than dismissing them outright. "The Founders' Circle will continue," Harry announced, warming to his role. "But now we have a proper home for it, a place where all houses are welcome. And maybe, over time, we'll remember that before we're Gryffindors or Slytherins or Ravenclaws or Hufflepuffs, we're Hogwarts students first." The applause that followed was spontaneous and enthusiastic. As it died down, Harry stepped off the platform, immediately surrounded by his friends. "Nice speech," Ron grinned, punching his arm lightly. "Very founderly." "Indeed," said a new voice. Professor McGonagall had entered the chamber, surveying the transformed space with barely disguised wonder. "Mr. Potter, it seems Hogwarts has made its opinion of your status quite clear." Harry smiled sheepishly. "It's a bit much, isn't it?" "On the contrary," McGonagall replied, her expression softening. "I believe it's exactly what Hogwarts has needed for a very long time." She straightened her hat. "The headmaster has asked me to inform you that the Board of Governors will be arriving tomorrow to inspect these changes. He suggests you prepare to explain your vision for this new arrangement." "The board?" Harry groaned. "Lucius Malfoy's going to hate all of this." "Perhaps," McGonagall allowed, a rare smile touching her lips. "But it may interest you to know that Mr. Malfoy's position on the board has become somewhat precarious since your encounter with Professor Quirrell. It seems certain dark artifacts were anonymously delivered to the Department of Magical Law Enforcement, along with evidence connecting them to the Malfoy estate." Harry looked at Daphne suspiciously, who merely examined her fingernails with exaggerated innocence. "Slytherins protect their interests," she said quietly when McGonagall moved away. "And right now, Potter, you're a much safer bet than Lucius Malfoy. Remember what I said about not all ambition leading to darkness. Some of us have been waiting for an alternative path for a long time." The remainder of the term passed in a whirlwind of activity. The heart of Hogwarts quickly became the center of student life, with the Founders' Circle expanding to include nearly half the school. Study groups formed organically, crossing house and year boundaries. Informal clubs sprang up, utilizing the vast space for everything from dueling practice to chess tournaments to impromptu musical performances. The castle continued to reveal hidden rooms and forgotten passages, each seeming to serve the goal of greater integration between houses. The most dramatic change came when moving staircases, long the bane of late students, began responding to need rather than whimsy, actually helping students reach their destinations on time rather than hindering them. It's like Hogwarts finally remembered what it was supposed to be, Hermione observed as they prepared for end-of-year exams. A place of learning, not a maze designed to keep houses separated. Even the exams themselves seemed affected by the castle's transformation. Questions emphasized interconnections between subjects that had previously been taught in isolation. Practical tests often required skills from multiple disciplines, rewarding students who had embraced the cross-house study groups. Harry found his own exams surprisingly manageable, his founder connection providing not answers but clarity, a deeper understanding of magic's underlying principles that made the specific applications more intuitive. When results were posted, Hermione topped the year as expected, but the highest overall scores were more evenly distributed between houses than anyone could remember. The Founders Circle students, with their collaborative approach to learning, consistently outperformed those who had stuck to traditional house-based study groups. Empirical proof that unity works, Percy Weasley declared proudly, having tracked the statistics with characteristic thoroughness. I've drafted a report for the governors demonstrating the measurable academic benefits of inter-house cooperation. At the leaving feast, the Great Hall had been transformed yet again. Instead of the traditional long house tables, smaller round tables were arranged throughout the space, each bearing all 5 house crests. The staff table remained on its platform, but it too had been curved into a semicircle, symbolically embracing the student body. Dumbledore rose to his feet as the feast concluded, the hall falling silent in anticipation of his end-of-year address. Another year gone, he began, beaming around at the students. And what a remarkable year it has been. When young Harry Potter arrived at our sorting ceremony 10 months ago, none of us could have predicted the transformation his presence would catalyze. All eyes turned briefly to Harry, who fought the urge to sink under his table. Change is often difficult, Dumbledore continued. Traditions, once established, develop a certain gravity that resists alteration. Yet the true strength of any institution lies not in rigid adherence to the past, but in its capacity to evolve while honoring its founding principles. He gestured to the 5 banners now hanging above the staff table, the traditional 4 house banners plus Harry's founder emblem in the center. Hogwarts was established as a place where magical children of diverse talents, backgrounds, and aptitudes could learn together. Somewhere along the centuries, together became alongside, and eventually separately. The houses, intended to nurture different strengths, gradually became divisions rather than distinctions. Dumbledore's gaze swept the hall. What we have witnessed this year is not revolution but restoration, a return to the Founder's original vision. And for that, we owe a debt of gratitude to the 5th Founder, whose unique perspective helped us see what we had forgotten. Harry squirmed uncomfortably as applause broke out, but he couldn't deny the warm glow of pride in his chest. He'd done something meaningful, something that would outlast his time at Hogwarts. And now, before we award the House Cup, Dumbledore continued, I believe our 5th Founder might wish to share a few words. Harry. Startled, Harry rose to his feet, unprepared for this moment. He looked around at the expectant faces, friends from the Founder's Circle, teachers who had guided him, even former rivals like Malfoy whose hostility had gradually softened to wary consideration. I didn't expect to speak tonight, he began honestly. And I'm still getting used to this whole 5th Founder business. When the Sorting Hat made its announcement back in September, I was as shocked as anyone. I didn't understand what it meant, what I was supposed to do. He paused, gathering his thoughts. What I've learned since then is that being a founder isn't about creating something new. It's about revealing what's already there, the connections between us that are stronger than our differences. Gryffindor courage, Hufflepuff loyalty, Ravenclaw wisdom, Slytherin ambition, these aren't opposing forces. They're complementary strengths, meant to work together. Harry gestured to the heart of Hogwarts' crest now emblazoned on the wall behind the staff table. That's what the crest of unity represents, not the erasure of houses but the recognition that we're stronger together than apart. Each house maintains its identity, its values, its traditions. But now we also have spaces and structures that help us learn from each other, challenge each other, grow beyond the limitations of any single perspective. He looked directly at Dumbledore. Professor, You said we owe a debt for the restoration of the Founder's vision. But that debt isn't to me, it's to Hogwarts itself. The castle chose to reveal these forgotten connections. I was just lucky enough to be the one it chose to help make them visible again. As Harry resumed his seat amid thunderous applause, he felt a surge of magic flow through the hall, the castle itself responding to his words, its ancient stones resonating with approval. Dumbledore's eyes twinkled as he rose once more. Well said, Harry. And now, to the House Cup. For the first time in living memory, the House Cup ended in a perfect tie, all four houses finishing with exactly the same number of points. Whether this was Dumbledore's manipulation or the castle's magic, no one could say for certain, but as the headmaster conjured a cup bearing all four house colors intertwined, no one seemed inclined to question it. A fitting conclusion to an extraordinary year, Dumbledore declared. And a promising beginning for Hogwarts' next chapter. The Hogwarts Express journey back to London gave Harry time to reflect on everything that had happened since that fateful sorting ceremony. From confused, homeless first year to recognized fifth founder, from an orphan desperate to find his place to a leader who had helped reshape the very structure of Hogwarts. You're going to keep in touch over summer, right? Hermione asked as they neared King's Cross. I want to draft some proposals for expanding the Founders Circle activities next year. Of course, Harry assured her. Though the Dursleys probably won't let Hedwig out much. About that, Ron said mysteriously. Dad's been talking to Dumbledore. Something about ensuring the fifth Founders' summer accommodations meet minimal wizarding standards. Wouldn't be surprised if you got a visit from some ministry types early in the holiday. Harry grinned at the thought of Uncle Vernon's face if official wizards showed up on Privet Drive. That would be brilliant. You should come stay at the Burrow too, Ron continued. Mum's already planning meals to put some meat on those founder bones of yours. As the train slowed on its approach to platform 9 3/4, Daphne Greengrass and Blaise Zabini stopped by their compartment, a visit that would have been unthinkable at the beginning of the year. We wanted to say goodbye, Potter, Daphne said. And to let you know that several of our housemates' parents are reconsidering their political alignments over the summer. Harry raised an eyebrow. Meaning, Blaise explained with his typical understated elegance, that your victory over the Dark Lord, again, combined with your new founder status, has made certain traditionally conservative families question their assumptions about where power truly lies in the wizarding world. They're hedging their bets, Daphne translated, seeing Harry's confusion. Not committing to either side yet, but definitely reassessing. That's significant, especially for families like the Malfoys, Knotts, and Parkinsons. Keep that in mind when you return next year, Blaise advised. There will be opportunities for alliances that weren't possible before. After they left, Ron shook his head in amazement. Slytherins offering political advice instead of insults. Never thought I'd see the day. That's the whole point of being the fifth founder, I guess, Harry replied. Breaking down those old assumptions. As they disembarked onto the crowded platform, Harry was surprised by how many students from all houses stopped to say goodbye, not just Founders Circle members but others who had been touched by the year's changes. Even Draco Malfoy gave him a curt nod from across the platform, a grudging acknowledgement if not quite acceptance. Vernon Dursley waited beyond the barrier, his expression souring at the sight of Harry's trunk and owl. Hurry up, boy, he grunted. Not standing around all day for your nonsense. Hello, Uncle Vernon, Harry replied calmly. There's something you should probably know before we leave. What's that? Vernon snapped suspiciously. Harry smiled. I've had a bit of a promotion at school. I'm now officially recognized as one of Hogwarts' founders. Vernon's face twisted in confusion. Founders? What rubbish is this? That school's hundreds of years old. 1,000, actually, Harry corrected. And yes, it's a bit complicated. But the important part is that the Ministry of Magic now considers me someone of significant importance to wizard education. They'll be checking on my welfare this summer. The color drained from Vernon's face. Checking. What do you mean, checking? Oh, just making sure I'm properly fed, have adequate living space, you know, not locked in a cupboard or anything. Harry's smile widened. Standard procedure for founders, really. As Uncle Vernon spluttered incoherently, Harry turned to give Ron and Hermione one last hug goodbye. See you soon, he promised. It's going to be an interesting summer. Walking toward the Dursleys' car, Harry felt a last brush of magic against his consciousness, distant but distinct, like Hogwarts reaching out across the miles to maintain their connection. A final assurance that no matter where he went, he had found his true home. Not just any home, but one he had helped reshape, one where students from all backgrounds could find their place, just as he had. The boy who lived had become the fifth founder, and in doing so, had discovered the purpose behind his survival all those years ago. Hogwarts had been waiting for him. And now, together, they had begun to restore the founder's true vision, not four separate paths, but one school, united in its magical diversity. The first trial had been passed, but Harry knew more challenges lay ahead. Voldemort was still out there, weakened but not destroyed. The Wizarding World's divisions ran deeper than just Hogwarts houses. The prejudices and fears that had fueled the last war still smoldered beneath the surface of magical society. But for the first time, Harry felt truly prepared to face whatever came next, not because he was the boy who lived or the fifth founder, but because he had found his strength in unity, in the connections he'd forged across the artificial boundaries that had divided Hogwarts for too long. And that, he suspected, was the most powerful magic of all. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.